Chapter 474. It was a misunderstanding. That was 500,000. Mrs. Tang had never seen so much money in her life. She'd been over the moon when Lin Yi gave her 200,000. Although 150,000 was to pay off Wang Lui's debt, it was still Lin Yi's money. It meant that Lin Yi cared about Tang Yun. Mrs. Tang was smiling happily at the bank card in her hand. She was in an indescribably good mood. Suddenly, her phone rang, startling her. She picked it up and saw that it was her daughter calling. When Tang Yun asked her where she was, Mrs. Tang didn't think much about it and said that she was at the bank. She regretted it after she said it. Lin Yi had been secretive when he gave her the money, not wanting Tang Yun to know. But now that she'd exposed it, she hoped that her daughter wouldn't suspect anything. I wanted to see how much money we had left after your dad was hospitalized, so we could figure out how big of a retail space we could buy. Mrs. Tang explained. Mom, how much did Lin Yi give you this morning? Tang Yun's heart tightened. She'd suspected that Lin Yi had given her mother money, and now that her mother was in the bank, she was even more certain. So Tang Yun didn't even ask if Lin Yi had given her mother money. She only asked how much, to show that she already knew about it, and that her mother didn't need to hide it anymore. Mrs. Tang paused. Her daughter already knew? She didn't think that her daughter was lying to her. She hesitated. 500,000, what? 500,000. Tang Yun's body felt like it was going to collapse. It was as if all the energy in her body had been sucked out by her mother's words. Her phone fell to the floor with a bang, the back cover and battery separating. Tang Yun didn't seem to notice it at all. Her body swayed, and she would have fainted if it weren't for the fact that she was holding onto the wall. Tears rolled down his cheeks. Sure enough, he had given his mother a lot of money. 500,000. That was 500,000. It was enough for his family to buy a retail house. Why would Lin Yi give his family 500,000 yuan for no reason? The last time his father had an operation, he only took out 200,000 yuan, including the money he gave to Xiao Wei. But this time, he took out 500,000 yuan. What did this mean? Tang Yun's first thought was the breakup fee Xiao mentioned this morning. Only a breakup fee would Lin Yi give them so much money, right? As expected, Tang Yun leaned against the wall as tears rolled down her cheeks. Why? Why would Lin Yi bother him when he had Xiao? Or was it that he was too stupid and naive, thinking that he was different from those hedonistic young masters, but in reality, he was no different from them? Thinking about Xiao Fun's experience, Lin Yi's actions didn't need any explanation. Lin Yi, I hate you. Tang Yun bit her lips, not knowing what to do or what to do. What's wrong, Yin? What are you doing? Who's bullying you? Xinwen came out of the washroom to see Tang Yun crying against the wall, her phone on the ground in pieces. Xinwen. Tang Yun forced a smile when she saw Xinwen. It's nothing. I'm just a little dizzy. Dizzy? Why are you crying if you're dizzy? Xinwen didn't believe her. Did someone bully you? Yin, tell me, I'll chop him up with a cleaver. Xinwen had been this fierce since she was young, and she was still the same now. It's nothing, it's really nothing. Tang Yun, naturally, wouldn't tell Xinwen about her sadness. Even if she was her best friend, she was abandoned by Lin Yi. How could she say that? Xinwen was the one who told her to stay away from Lin Yi, but she didn't listen. Now she was at a loss, wasn't she? Xinwen saw that Tang Yun didn't want to talk about it, so she picked up the phone parts and stuffed them into Tang Yun's hands. Thank you. Tang Yun wasn't in the mood to check if the phone was broken or not, so she stuffed it into her pocket. Yin, if you're wronged, you have to tell me. I'll help you. Xinwen said worriedly. Thank you, but I'm really fine. Tang Yun shook her head. Xinwen helped Tang Yun back to the classroom, and the bell rang. Xinwen couldn't ask anymore, so she sighed and went back to her seat. On the way back to school, Lin Yi looked at the time on the dashboard and suddenly remembered that the first class had already ended, and Tang Yun still wanted to find him. Was she worried? Of course, Lin Yi didn't think too much about it, because from Tang Yun's expression this morning, although she was a little angry, it was far from suspicion, so Lin Yi wasn't worried. How could he know that the 500,000 he gave to Mrs. Tang was taken as a breakup fee by Tang Yun? If he knew it would be like this, he wouldn't have done it. He took out his phone and dialed Tang Yun's number, but the phone was turned off, which surprised Lin Yi. Could this girl be angry because I didn't look for her after class? Boss, are you calling sis-in-law? Kong Xiaobo saw that Lin Yi was on the phone, and he could guess who it was. I promised Tang Yun that I would find her after the first class, but I missed it because I saved you. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. No way. Then wouldn't I be the greatest sinner? Kong Xiaobo was shocked and quickly said, Boss, do you need me to explain to her? No need, I'll explain. Lin Yi smiled. He didn't have the habit of letting others testify. From his perspective, it wasn't a big deal, so he didn't mind. Tang Yun was angry. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, was secretly delighted as she clenched her fists. This was great. She'd finally pissed Tang Yun off. It seemed like the move she used this morning wasn't bad. She'd have to use it more often in the future. Lin Yi called Tang Yun's phone and found that it was turned off, so he put the phone on the dashboard, and just as he put it down, the phone rang. Lin Yi thought it was Tang Yun calling back, but it was Fatty Lai. Hello, Fatty Lai? Lin Yi picked up the phone. Chapter 475. Let you know, what good news? Lin Yi paused, guessing that there was some progress with the medicine company. Boss, I'm a Professor Guans. Are you free? If you have time, come over and tell me in detail. It's about the auction, Fatty Lai said. All right, I'll come over now. Lin Yi looked at the time. He'd already skipped most of the morning's classes, so he didn't mind skipping a bit more. Then I'll wait for you here. Fatty Lai hung up excitedly. I still have something to do later. Xiao Xiao, can you send Kong Xiaobo infant back? Lin Yi asked as he looked at Xiao Xiao. Sure, go do what you need to do. Xiao Xiao was laughing inside, thinking that it was better if he didn't go back to school now. Tang Yun would get angrier and angrier, and she'd break up with him if she couldn't see him. Lin Yi didn't think that much about it. He didn't know what Xiao Xiao was thinking. He drove to the entrance of Songshan Medical University and got out of the car. Cars weren't allowed in the residential area of the school, and unfamiliar cars had to be registered. It was Xiao Xiao's first time here, so Lin Yi didn't bother and walked over. Xiao Xiao sat in the driver's seat, pleased with herself as she drove Kong Xiaobo and Fun to the slums. She wanted to send Fun back first, and on the way, she'd ask Kong Xiaobo about Lin. Xiaobo, can you tell me more about Lin Yi? Xiao Xiao asked as she drove. Boss, Xiaobo didn't feel like there was anything wrong with that, so he started rambling on and on. Lingshan waited for Lin Yi to leave before calling the team over, quickly surrounding Dunmeng Street 7. Lu Wangli jumped out of the police car and looked at the 3 dead and 1 injured on the ground, as well as the 2 rescued victims. He gave Lingshan a thumbs up. Captain Song, you're way too amazing. You found the organ trafficking organization's hideout in one go. Lingshan's face reddened at Lu Wangli's compliment. She coughed a couple of times. According to my initial observations, this isn't the main base of the criminal organization. It's just a transfer point where the beggars, homeless people, and handicapped people are sent here and await the next step of the criminal operation. That's still amazing. Our team searched the whole city without sleep, but we didn't find any clues. Captain Song is really something. Another senior captain in the criminal police team also said with admiration. That's right, Captain Song. When Lingshan was the captain of the city's criminal police team, these captains weren't very happy with her. But after Lingshan solved several big cases in a row, along with her first place in the police tournament, they were all very impressed with her. Lingshan, on the other hand, was blushing a little, thinking about how she'd gotten all this information just by acting cute to Lin Yi. Lingshan felt really ashamed. She felt like she'd lied to someone else about how she'd gotten all the credit. Lingshan didn't know how to explain herself in front of everyone's praises, so she turned to Lu Wangli. Lu Wangli, send the 2 victims back first. The rest of you, send the suspect to the hospital. Lingshan sighed as she looked at the busy workers. Was her life a failure? Now that she wasn't relying on Huaijun anymore, she had to rely on Lin Yi. But when she thought about it, this was her own ability. Other people didn't know who Lin Yi was, and she was the only one who could get Lin Yi's help. No matter what the process was, the result would be the same, and that was enough. As for her acting cute to Lin Yi and calling him Miss Braindead, she could just treat it as a joke between friends. She didn't have to worry too much about it. Many of her colleagues had nicknames too, and they weren't all that nice, like Fierce Bull or Iron Bullet. Her nickname was only for Lin. Ling Shan knew that she was just comforting herself, but it still made her feel a lot better. Lin Yi arrived at Xu Amin's house. Fatty Lai was sitting on the sofa, talking to Xu Amin excitedly, but Xu Amin didn't interrupt, only nodding with a smile. Xu Amin knew that Fatty Lai wasn't good at business, so he only listened to Fatty Lai's point of view and didn't interfere. After all, different professions were worlds apart. He was famous in the medical world, but that didn't mean he was good at other things. It'd be disgusting if he were to criticize others. "Boss, you're here." Fatty Lai jumped up from the sofa excitedly when he saw Lin. "You're quite agile." He was a little puzzled. Fatty Lai seemed to have a spring on his butt, jumping up with a whoosh. It wouldn't be a big deal if he didn't have such a fat body, but it was rare to see someone so agile with such a fat body. I've been working out," Fatty Lai said. "But my genes aren't good. I get fat just from drinking water. I've been trying to lose weight, but I just can't." "Oh, it's your genes. I'll help you adjust them when I'm free," Lin Yi said faintly. "Okay." "Huh?" Fatty Lai jumped up in shock, looking at Lin Yi in disbelief. "Boss, you're saying that genes can be adjusted?" "Yes," Lin Yi nodded. "But I like you because you're chubby. Then I won't adjust them. This is good." Fatty Lai changed his mind after hearing that Lin Yi liked him. "Lose a little more weight," Lin Yi smiled. "When my company is on the right track, I'll perform acupuncture on you when I'm free." Actually, performing acupuncture on Fatty Lai was a piece of cake, and he could do it any time. He could even perform acupuncture while talking. The problem was that Lin Yi didn't really trust Fatty Lai yet. He didn't treat him as a true confidant, so he wasn't in a rush to give him any benefits. He'd observe him for a while before deciding. "Okay, boss, you're too good to me." Sob. Fatty Lai was so emotional that he started crying again. Lin Yi was speechless. It seemed like he couldn't change his crybaby habit. He couldn't cure it. It was a personality problem. "Hey, boss, don't be angry. I was so emotional that I started crying." Okay, I won't cry anymore." Fatty Lai suddenly remembered that Lin Yi didn't want him to cry, so he quickly stopped. Chapter 476. Matters for the auction. Fatty Lai returned to normal after Lin Yi sat on the sofa, smiling as he took out a brochure from his briefcase and handed it to Lin Yi. "Boss, take a look at this." Lin Yi took the brochure from Fatty Lai and flipped through it. Auction. Lin Yi took a look and realized that it was a brochure introducing the auction, and the venue was Yanjing City. "That's right." Fatty Lai nodded. "But this isn't a normal auction. It's a super auction that all the noble houses attend, and it's held once a year." "Oh." Lin Yi paused. He didn't expect this auction to be so influential, and Fatty Lai must have some power if he could get his hands on a brochure for this auction. "Mr. Lai is right. I know about this auction. They send me an invitation every year, but I've never attended it before." Xu Amin smiled self-deprecatingly. With Xu Amin's current status, he was the target of all the noble houses. A miracle doctor was far more useful than a profitable business partner. What was the use of money if he was dead? Therefore, in order to show how much the aristocratic families valued Guan Xu Amin, they would send him more than one invitation every year. However, Guan Xu Amin had always been an honest person, so he wouldn't charge exorbitant medical fees. Naturally, he wouldn't attend any auction. "This time, Professor One must go," Fatty Lai said with a smile. "If I'd known that you had so many invitations and that you could bring people along, I wouldn't have wasted so much effort to get you an invitation." Lin Yi smiled. Fatty Lai had wanted to show off when he got the invitation, but he didn't expect Xu Amin to have several of them. He wasn't in the mood to show off right away. In this auction, only some rare treasures are being auctioned. Only the financial resources of the various aristocratic families can afford to buy these things. Fatty Lai said, "Of course, other than the traditional aristocratic families participating, there will also be some new entrepreneurs invited. These people also have a lot of potential." "You're saying that we'll be auctioning the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at this auction?" Lin Yi had a rough idea of Fatty Lai's intentions. "That's right. Everyone who attends this auction is rich. As long as they're willing to chase after us, it'll be hard for our products not to be sold out. Fatty Lie said. All right, you can decide. Lenny nodded. Since Fatty Lie was in charge, if he said it could be done, then it would be done. It's great following you, boss. Fatty Lie was so happy that he wasn't interfering at all. He almost cried again, but he managed to hold it in. Boss, I've booked 3 tickets for tonight. We'll leave for Yinjing in a bit. So urgent. Lenny paused. Isn't the auction 3 days from now? That's for the auction. It's fine if we're just going to buy stuff, even if it's a day or 2 later, Fatty Lie said. But we're going to sell stuff at the auction as well, so we'll have to leave early. We need to submit it in advance. I see. Lenny nodded, following Fatty Lie's arrangements. He told Pingzhan and the Miss that he had something to do and would be away for a few days. Pingzhan, naturally, didn't say anything, but Meng Yao, on the other hand, replied nonchalantly. Mind your identity, don't flirt with other girls. Huh. He shook his head at Meng Yao's message and called Tang Yun. Unfortunately, Tang Yun's phone was still turned off. He could only send a message to Tang Yun, explaining that there was nothing going on between him and Xiao Xiao, and that he had to go to the auction in Yanjing and bring her a gift. At the same time, in Dr. Kang's house, Dr. Kong, naturally, received an invitation to the auction as well. Although House Kong wasn't even considered a low-level noble house, they were still the head of the company. Naturally, they would be part of the auction. Plus, House Kong would bring out some stuff for the auction every year. Why is the auction early this year? Dr. Kong looked at the invitation in his hand curiously. Yeah, Father, it's always August every year. I wonder what's up with House Yu this year. Kong Guifeng nodded, confused. Silence. Dr. Kong glared at Kong Guifeng. House Yu's business is not something you could talk about. There's no outsiders here. Kong Guifeng knew that he said something wrong, but he still tried to defend himself. No outsiders? It'll be bad if there are outsiders. You're putting us in a position where we can't recover from. Dr. Kong humphed coldly. Don't even think about this in the future. We're at a crucial stage of becoming a noble house. Don't cause trouble. It's just the 2 of us now, but you're used to saying it. What if you say it out loud when you go out? Wouldn't that ruin everything? Yes, Father. I was wrong. Kong Guifeng quickly apologized. No matter why House Yu brought forward the auction this time, we, House Kong, still have to participate. Dr. Kong humphed. This time, I'll go with you and Zhao Long to Yinjing. We'll go to Xiao family first to propose marriage, and then we'll go to the auction. Yes, Father. Kong Guifeng nodded. The items for the auction this year, are we going to prepare the same as last year's? Yes, but we have to prepare an extra portion as a betrothal gift to Xiao family. Dr. Kong said, prepare it as soon as possible. We'll be leaving tomorrow. Don't worry, Father. Kong Guifeng nodded. Dr. Kong trusted Kong Guifeng. This eldest son was much more reliable than his youngest son. He hoped that this trip to Yinjing would not only be able to get the support of Xiao family, but also earn a fortune from the auction. Every year, House Kong would prepare a few portions of golden creation at the auction. It was highly sought after by all the noble houses, and usually sold for a sky-high price. This was also one of the sources of income for House Kong every year. However, the so-called golden creation medicine was just a normal golden creation medicine that wasn't diluted. At most, some of the ingredients were older and more effective. Chapter 477. Chapter 477. Return it to him. Xiao Xiao happily went back to school, looking for a chance to use Lin Yi's incident to attack Tang Yun. Lin Yi wasn't in school, and Tang Yun wouldn't even have a chance to confront him. La la la. Xiao Xiao started laughing happily. She walked quickly to Class 9's door and was about to call Tang Yun out to talk to her when her phone rang in her pocket. Only Xiao Xiao dared to set her phone to ringtone in school. The others had to be careful, even if it was vibrating. Jifeng had just finished checking the 12th grader's discipline, and he was walking past the hallway when he heard the ringtone. He was about to explode when he saw that it was Xiao Xiao. He lowered his head helplessly and pretended not to see it, walking away quickly. Sometimes, Jifeng felt that being the dean was a bit of a burden. There were two special students in the school that he couldn't control. One was Lin E, and the other was Xiao Xiao. This was too fucked up. He could only pretend he didn't see anything. But Xiao Xiao just had to raise her head and greet Ji-Feng, her voice sweet. Mr. Wang, Lin, he has something to do these next couple of days. He can't come to school. He asked me to help him get a leave. She was standing in front of Tang Yun's classroom, not far from Tang Yun's window. The window wasn't closed, and Tang Yun heard it loud and clear. She froze. She was lying on her desk, not paying attention to what was going on outside, but she raised her head upon hearing Xiao Xiao's voice. Her heart froze when she heard that Xiao Xiao was applying for leave for Linny. So, they really had something going on. Oh, okay. Wang Ji-Feng answered gloomily and quickly turned around to leave. Xiao Xiao's face turned cold as well. She looked at the caller ID and quickly ran to the bathroom to pick it up. What's up? Xiao Xiao, you should go to the hospital today. A middle-aged man's voice came from the other side. Hospital? What hospital? I'm going to die anyway. I'm going to waste my life there? Xiao Xiao was getting agitated all of a sudden, as if she was really against it. Didn't the doctor say that there's a chance of recovery? The middle-aged man said after a pause. Listen to their bullshit. You said Mom wouldn't die, but look what happened. Xiao Xiao was even more agitated. My mom, my auntie, it's the same. You don't have time to accompany me. So please don't waste my life, okay? I'm sorry. The middle-aged man sighed. But Dad has work to do. But this time, Dad's colleague helped me contact an expert. I will send a car to pick you up later. No, I'm not going. I haven't played enough. How much time do I have left? You put me in a hospital for 2 months. How many more months do I have to waste? Xiao Xiao yelled at the other side of the phone before smashing the phone on the ground, panting with rage. The middle-aged man helplessly put down the phone in his hand. Although he also wanted to accompany his daughter often, the nature of his work gave him little time to rest 365 days a year. Xiao Xiao's chest was heaving up and down as she put her hands on the windowsill, looking at the students playing on the field. She held back the tears that were about to fall. I can't cry, I'm Xiao Xiao. Go, Xiao Xiao. After calming down for a while, she heard a sound from the bathroom door. She quickly collected her emotions and picked up the phone before walking out of the bathroom calmly. Tang Yun was feeling really bad, and she didn't want to embarrass herself in the classroom. She stumbled to the bathroom to wash her face and calm down, only to see Xiao Xiao walking out. She jumped and yelped, looking at Xiao Xiao with wariness and hostility. Tang Yun didn't know what to do at a time like this, nor did she have any experience like this. At the end of the day, she was just an 18-year-old girl, a 12th grader. She'd never met a love rival before, and her mind was a blank. Xiao Xiao was much calmer than Tang Yun. She looked at Tang Yun and smiled. I'm going on a honeymoon with Lin. He gave you the breakup fee, right? Xiao Xiao knew that her father would still send someone to pick her up, and Lin, he had something to do. She disappeared as well, so she could use this chance to make Tang Yun misunderstand. He did, but I don't want it. I'll get it back to him. Tang Yun bit her lip and raised her head to look at Xiao Xiao stubbornly. Tell him that I hate him. All right, I'll tell him. Xiao Xiao blinked. Breakup fee? Why did she really give a breakup fee? What was going on? But as weird as it was, Xiao Xiao put on a look of understanding and smiled at Tang Yun. But I suggest you keep the money. I don't want it. Tang Yun looked at Xiao Xiao's back, tears welling up in her eyes. She didn't know if it was because she felt wronged or because she was mourning this first love that died before it even started. In the afternoon, a black Audi A6L with a special plate stopped in front of Songshan's first school. Captain Feng, we've arrived. The driver reminded the middle-aged man who was resting behind the car. Oh, we're here already? That fast. The man opened his eyes, and one could clearly see the red veins in his eyes. It was obvious that he was exhausted. Turn off the air conditioner and open the window. Yes. The driver turned off the air conditioner and opened the window. The middle-aged man, called Captain Feng, took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. When the call was connected, he said, Xiao Xiao, I'm at the gate of your school. How many days is it this time? Xiao Xiao knew that she couldn't hide from this. Whether she rejected or not, her father would come to get her. The phone was quite sturdy, and it didn't break. Xiao Xiao's phone was a custom-made device her father gave her. It had a GPS system and was very sturdy. 2 or 3 days. It'll be quick after a checkup, and I can bring the medicine back, Captain Feng said after some hesitation. All right, wait for me, Xiao Xiao said happily. Captain Feng was confused. When had his daughter ever been this happy? Every time she went to the hospital, she'd do everything she could to convince her and even grab her, but this time... Chapter 478. Chapter 478. Marriage Proposal, Part 1. No, I'll be waiting for you then. Captain Feng was a little puzzled. What was wrong with his daughter today? Why was she acting so weird? But since Xiao Xiao wanted to come, there was no need for him to say anything else. The reason why Xiao Xiao agreed so quickly was because Lin Yi wasn't at school, and she had to leave as well. One could only imagine how depressed Tang Yun would be. Going against her? That would be a tragic ending. Xiao Xiao waved her fist and went downstairs. She saw the Audi A6L parked outside the school gates and didn't say anything as she got in the car. Xiao Xiao, the doctor this time is your dad's colleague, an expert in genetic diseases. Captain Feng waited for Xiao Xiao to get in the car before looking at her kindly. His name was Feng Tianlong, a special agent. He couldn't be by Xiao Xiao's side every day due to his work. It was a little regretful, but he didn't regret it. Since he'd chosen this path, he had to walk it down. Oh, another specialist, Xiao Xiao replied faintly. Xiao Xiao nodded faintly. She'd seen too many experts since she was young, but they'd always come back disappointed. Xiao Xiao was pretty much numb to it already. Rather than wasting time with doctors, she'd rather spend her youth and life. At least she wouldn't regret it, even if she died. Tianlong shook his head. His daughter's attitude was within his expectations, and he didn't say anything else. In fact, he didn't have much confidence, but as long as there was a sliver of hope, he wanted his daughter to live healthily. The plane slowly landed in Yanjing, and Lin Yi, Fatty Lai, and Fatty Lai got off the plane and checked into the hotel Fatty Lai had booked. Boss, we're auctioning 3 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing this time. Isn't that a little too little? Fatty Lai asked carefully. Rare things are precious. Plus, it's not all for the money. It's mainly for the fame. Lin Yi smiled. I see. Fatty Lai knew that Lin Yi was speaking the truth, but he had his own selfish motives. If there were only 3 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing, then his chances of getting one would be a little low. If there were more, then wouldn't he still have a chance? Of course, he couldn't say this to Lin Yi, so Fatty Lai could only swallow it. With Fatty Lai's help, the procedures for the auction were easily taken care of. All they had to do was provide the auction items, the base price, and so on, and the auction would be completed. Even the organizer of the auction did not force the seller to go through the appraisal. The appraisal was voluntary, and one could apply for it or not. Obviously, the organizer also knew that some rare treasures couldn't be identified on the spot, and those who could participate in this auction were all celebrities. No one was willing to come up with something fake to tarnish their reputation. It was true that there were cases of shoddy goods being passed off as quality goods, but this kind of transaction would also damage the seller's reputation. As the organizer, House Yu was not a force to be trifled with. Rumor had it that a few years ago, there was a seller who passed off shoddy goods as quality goods, and House Yu ended up bankrupting him. But for Fatty Lai's unknown pill that had never been on the market before, no matter how miraculous his description was, the organizer still set a relatively low price for him. 1 million. Fatty Lai didn't want to explain further. 1 million it was. The pill wouldn't be sold for a cheap price anyway. Forget 1 million. Even if it was 100 million, he'd take it without hesitation. Yanjing City, Xiao family. Dr. Kong brought Kong Guifeng and Kong Xiaolong to visit the 2 brothers of the Xiao family, Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben. The old man of the Xiao family had passed away, and Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben had become poor kids. Although the Xiao family was still a low-class noble house, the 2 brothers were pleasantly surprised by Dr. Kang's personal visit. Dr. Kong, you could have just asked Brother Guifeng to come. Why did you come yourself? You're giving our Xiao family too much face. Xiao Ji was very excited about Dr. Kang's visit. As long as the marriage with House Kong was successful, the Xiao family would be able to get a loan from the bank, as well as the support of their business partners. By then, the situation of the Xiao family would be reversed. Isn't it just in time for House Yu's auction? So I came along. Dr. Kong smiled. House Yu's auction? Xiao Ji paused. Isn't the auction held in August every year? It's earlier this year, don't you know? Dr. Kong was taken aback as well. The Xiao family may be a low-class noble house, but they should still be invited to the auction. Why do they look like they didn't know? He knew even when he was out of town, but the local Xiao family didn't know? I know. Ha! Big brother, the invitation is with me. I was dealing with the funeral of the old man, so I put this matter aside. I forgot to mention it. Xiao Ben was a smart man. After a trace of haze flashed across his face, he said with a smile, Xiao Ben was just lying. In fact, the Xiao family didn't receive the invitation, and that was what pissed him off the most. With the old man's death, they didn't send an invitation. What was House Yu thinking? I see, so it's with you. I thought they forgot about us. Xiao Ji smiled and nodded. It's brought forward. I wonder if Elder Kong has anything that you're determined to get in this auction? Well, the auction list is only released on the day of the auction. I don't know about that. Dr. Kong smiled and shook his head. Xiao Ben felt sad again. Once upon a time, when the Xiao family was at its peak, they could get most of the auction listings a few days before the auction. How awesome were he and his brother back then? When the time comes, I'll definitely get it. But now, they didn't even bother to send out an invitation. The Xiao family may be poor, but they were still a low-class noble house. How could they look down on them like this? Of course, Xiao Ben saw that his brother was about to brag about his past achievements and quickly stopped him. We probably won't be able to bid for anything when the time comes. We might not even be able to attend the auction. There's too much to do at home. Xiao Ben made up an excuse for not being able to attend. Right, Guifeng, where's our gift? Dr. Kong looked at Kong Guifeng. Here. Kong Guifeng waved at Xiaolong, who was at the door. Xiaolong quickly walked over. Uncle Xiao, second Uncle Xiao, this is a box of golden creation ointment. It's just a small gift. Xiaolong said respectfully as he presented the box politely. Chapter 479. Chapter 479, Marriage Proposal, Part 2. They wouldn't have cared about 10 million if it were any other time, but right now, they couldn't be more excited. This young man is Kong Xiaolong, right? What a handsome man. Xiao Ji said to Xiaolong as he accepted the box with a smile on his face. Uncle Xiao, I'm Kong Xiaolong. Xiaolong said politely. Yes, he's a good match for our Xinyan. Xiao Bin nodded as well, annoyed at his niece for not knowing her place. House Kong was such a powerful family, after all. Why wasn't she interested? They tried to persuade her for a few days, but she still wouldn't agree. Xiao Bin and Xiao Ji were helpless. At the end of the day, Xinyan was just a distant relative, not a direct descendant of the Xiao family. They couldn't ask for anything. House arrest wasn't the way to go. They had to let her go. Xinyan's parents, on the other hand, were a bit against the marriage at first, but Wang Shubin fell silent after hearing that the man was Dr. Kang's grandson. Qin Lin, on the other hand, didn't have much of an opinion. She'd been listening to Wang Shubin all these years, and now that Wang Shubin had agreed, she had no objections. The most important thing was that Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben had said that if they agreed to the marriage, they'd give up on the shares mentioned in the old man's will. But if they didn't agree, they'd take back a portion of shares from Wang Shubin's company, and they'd threaten to ally with House Kong against his medicine company. Now, Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben were glad that Xinyan was the only one who was against the marriage. There wouldn't be any problems as long as they got through to her. Where's that Wang Xinyan? Why don't you call her out so I can see my future granddaughter-in-law? Dr. Kong asked, smiling as he sat on the sofa. As a grandfather, he was quite satisfied with this granddaughter-in-law, despite the fact that this was a political marriage. I'll go get her now. Xiao Ben gave his brother a look before walking into the living room. I say, sis, brother-in-law, did you guys really get through to my niece's thoughts? Dr. Kong himself came to our house to propose marriage. This isn't something just anyone can do. Xiao Ben said as he looked at Wang Shubin and Qin Lin, who were standing in front of Xin Yan's room. Little Yin doesn't agree. I think it's fine. Although Xiao Qin Lin didn't have any opinions, she still loved her daughter very much. Seeing that her daughter was unhappy, she naturally didn't want to get married. Or you're a woman with long hair but short knowledge. Xiao Ben was stunned and said with some annoyance, "What kind of family does Dr. Kong come from? His eldest grandson Kong Xiaolong is the future heir of House Kong. How could Xin Yan lose out by marrying him?" "Qin Lin, I've heard of this Xiaolong before. He's an excellent student, and he doesn't have a single bad habit. I've heard that he hasn't even had a girlfriend." "I think he won't mistreat Xin Yan," Wang Shubin said. Although he was afraid that something would happen to the company, he didn't want his daughter to be unhappy in the future, so he secretly got someone to investigate Xiaolong. The results of the investigation surprised him. Was this really a rich young master? He had been studying since he was young, and now that he had a PhD, he still had to continue his studies. Most importantly, he didn't have the habit of fooling around with women like other rich young masters. He didn't have a girlfriend since he was young. This was a world of difference between him and his cousin, Kong Ming. So after getting the report, Wang Shubin didn't reject the marriage anymore. Where else could he find such a good son-in-law? Not only was he good at his studies, he had a good character, and most importantly, he had a good family background. With Miracle Dr. Kang's support, there was no need to worry about the development of his medicine chain company. Is that so? But Little Yin doesn't like him. They've never met before. How could they have a relationship? Xiao Qinlin knew that Xiaolong was a good person, so she didn't reject him. But thinking about how her daughter didn't have feelings for him, she still hesitated. Can't feelings be cultivated? Plus, this is just an engagement. If things really don't work out, we can call it off, Xiao Ben said. Right now, we're just using this marriage as an excuse to get some benefits for both of us. Let the two of them get to know each other first, and maybe they'll develop feelings for each other. I see. Xiao Qinlin thought about it. Her second brother's words made sense, but an engagement wasn't a marriage. Let the two of them get to know each other first, and if it worked out, they could stay together. If it didn't work out, they could call it off. Yeah, Dr. Kang's family is waiting outside. Hurry up and get Xin Yan out. Xiao Ben was afraid that Dr. Kong would panic. All right then. Xiao Qinlin walked into the room and pushed out a dumbfounded Wang Xin Yan after a while. Xin Yan didn't understand. Why did her parents get convinced by her uncle and second uncle, asking her to get engaged to someone she didn't know? Her father gave her a lot of reasons, saying how great Xiaolong was, but Xin Yan didn't like him. She couldn't fall in love with someone she didn't know. Dad, is your company really that important? Xin Yan raised her head and looked at her father, hoping that he would change his mind. Wang Shubin was a little embarrassed, but the company was his life's work. He didn't want it to be ruined. I understand, Xin Yan sighed. Xin Yan sighed. I can go out with you guys, but I didn't agree to the engagement. All right, let's talk outside. Don't say anything when we get out. Maybe you'll like him just by looking at him, Xiao Ben said. Xiaolong is a rare young man. Xin Yan didn't say anything. There was no point in saying anything else. How could Xin Yan fight back when her parents had already agreed to it? How could she change? But she didn't plan on marrying a stranger. It was just an engagement, not a marriage. She'd just have to find a way to escape when the time came. Xin Yan would never accept a marriage arranged by her family. What year was this? There were still arranged marriages? Xin Yan was brought to the Xiao family's living room by Xiao Ben. Xiaolong was immediately attracted by Xin Yan's elegant figure. He didn't have a girlfriend, but that was just to show off in front of his grandpa. In fact, he'd been longing for a woman for a long time. Now that Xin Yan was officially his fiancée, Xiaolong didn't need to hide anything anymore. His family wouldn't say anything about how he treated Xin Yan. Chapter 480. Chapter 480. Cousin visits again. Xiaolong paused when he saw the flash of disgust in Xin Yan's eyes. He understood what was going on. From the looks of it, Wang Xin Yan was a girl with high standards. She wasn't like those materialistic girls who'd get excited at the sight of a rich young master like him, wanting nothing more than to throw themselves at him. But the more Xin Yan acted like this, the more Xiaolong was tempted. He wouldn't say anything if he were to marry a girl who was greedy for money, but he wouldn't be happy about it. Xin Yan's reaction was just what he wanted, and the desire in Xiaolong's eyes disappeared in a flash, returning to his previous clarity. He was a schemer, and the fact that he'd been studying so hard for so many years showed how strong his willpower was. "Hello, Xin Yan. I'm Xiaolong. I hope we can get along well." Xiaolong reached out his hand and greeted Xin Yan warmly. If Xiaolong had been like this from the start, Xin Yan wouldn't have hated him as much as she did now. After all, he was a sacrifice for the family's benefit. Xin Yan wouldn't hate him even if she didn't like him. But the desire in Xiaolong's eyes showed that his heart wasn't pure, and it made Xin Yan feel disgusted. She looked at Xiaolong's hand and said faintly, "I'm sorry, I was locked up by my family, and I haven't washed my hands for a few days." Xiaolong paused, and his face darkened. But it was only for a second, and he returned to normal. He was angry that Xin Yan didn't give him any face at all, saying that she was forced to do it in front of everyone. How could Xiaolong take that? But Xiaolong couldn't afford to fall out with Xin Yan right now. First of all, Xin Yan was a woman he liked, and there was no harm in pursuing a woman like that. Second of all, he couldn't fall out with the Xiao family for the sake of the family's benefit. It seems that Xin Yan doesn't want to marry in a house Kong, does she? Dr. Kong was a little angry at Xin Yan's words. Xiaolong couldn't say it, but he could. Although the Kong family was not an aristocratic family, yet the marriage was mutually beneficial, and the Xiao family also understood it very well. Moreover, the old master of the Xiao family had passed away, and there were only 2 juniors left. Dr. Kong was qualified to take advantage of his seniority. Xiao Ji was a little irritated as well. He didn't expect Xin Yan to be so disrespectful in a situation like this. He was about to scold her a little, but Xiao Bin shot him a look, and he shut his mouth. In the Xiao family, although Xiao Ji was the eldest, Xiao Bin was very intelligent. Xiao Ji now understood that the only way to protect the family was if the 2 of them worked together. So, he gave up on being the eldest and listened to Xiao Bin. "Elder Kong, she's a girl. How can she agree to it so easily?" Xiao Bin smiled. "It's the young people's business, of course. We're just acting as a middleman, and the key lies with them. Let's get to know each other first, and only then can we plan our next step." Xiao Bin's words were smooth. It was different from what he had originally intended, but Dr. Kong could still accept it. Xin Yan was clearly against it, and the Xiao family must have done a lot of work for her. If Dr. Kong were to insist on something, it would only make things worse, and that wasn't what Dr. Kong wanted to see. The only thing he could do was to let the 2 get to know each other, as Xiao Bin suggested. Now that the 2 know each other, it's better to get to know each other more. "I heard that Xin Yan's studying in Songshan. Let Xiaolong go play with her on the weekends when he's free." Dr. Kong nodded. "Xin Yan, don't say no when I go find you," Xiaolong said with a smile. "I'm in 12th grade, and I'm very busy. I don't have time," Xin Yan said faintly. Xin Yan had the intention to say no, but her reason was flawless. Xiaolong wasn't happy about it, but he could only say, "There should be time for a meal, right? I'll just treat you to a meal and get to know each other." "That depends on the time." Xin Yan frowned, but there was nothing she could do since Xiaolong had already said so. She felt a little depressed when she saw her father's earnest gaze. No matter what, she had to deal with it first. She was still young, and if she dragged it out, something might happen. Xin Yan felt a little more at ease at the thought. Dr. Kang's expression softened a little when Xin Yan stopped objecting. "Gui Feng has booked a table at the hotel. Let's go together." Tang Yin didn't know how her day passed. She stumbled home at night to see her mother and father discussing buying a storefront with a smile on her face. "Yin, you're back?" Mrs. Tang looked at Tang Yun happily, not noticing her daughter's strange mood. "Your dad and I are looking into it. We want to get a bigger store, preferably one with 2 floors. Our house is big enough, and it won't cost much. 500,000 should be enough." "Oh," Tang Yin replied faintly, unable to say the words that were at the tip of her tongue. She wanted to take back the 500,000 from her mother, but how could she do that now? Tang Yin went back to her room, depressed, and closed the door. She laid on her bed and started crying. After crying for a while, she fell asleep. Tang Yin would go back to her room to read every day after school, so Mrs. Tang didn't find it strange at all. She didn't know how long it had been, but Tang Yin was woken up by a commotion. She got up in a daze, wanted to wash her face before coming back to her room to read. She opened the door to see her brother, Wang Luwei, and his girlfriend, Dan, sitting on the sofa with a hesitant look on their faces. Yin, you're awake? I didn't dare wake you up because you were asleep, Mrs. Tang said happily. You're tired from school every day, so I didn't want to disturb you. Now that you're awake, I need your help with Wei's matter. Tang Yin paused. What's wrong with Wei? Sis, you have to help me. Wei looked at Tang Yin dejectedly, begging. You have to save Dan. What now? What did you do this time? Tang Yin was already in a bad mood, and hearing that Wei was in trouble made her even more unhappy. Wei could see that, and so could Mrs. Tang. She glared at Tang Yin. What? You're not going to care about your brother now that you're rich. Wei could see that, and so could Mrs. Tang. She glared at Tang Yin. What? You're not going to care about your brother now that you're rich. Chapter 481. How am I supposed to return it? Sister, you found a powerful brother-in-law. You must save me this time. Xiao Wei said carefully, it's the same boss we talked about last time. He still won't let me and Xiao Dan go. The boss from last time? Didn't you give them the 150,000 already? Tang Yin paused and looked at her brother in confusion. 150,000 yuan was given to him, but he said that 150,000 yuan was the situation 10 years ago. Now that the price of goods has increased so many times, the 150,000 yuan will also have to pay interest. Speaking up to this point, Xiao Wei seemed very angry. He said that either you pay him back 500,000 yuan with interest, or you want Xiao Dan to continue working in the company, or you give him money, 500,000? Tang Yun's eyes widened. How can they be so greedy? Turning 15 into 50 all of a sudden? Does he have a contract? Why don't we go to court to sue him? Where's the contract? Little Wei smiled bitterly. If there was a contract, it wouldn't be like this. The only contract was the one we signed. Xiao Dan had to work for him. If Xiao Dan broke the contract, she would have to compensate him for all his losses. He didn't say how much the losses were, so he could talk nonsense. Besides, we can't afford to go to court. Uncle Tang's matter hasn't been resolved yet, right? Tang Yin sighed. Wei was right. Her family was a weak group. How could they fight against those rich bosses? At that time, not to mention whether or not they could win the lawsuit, even if they did win, they would still be the ones who would suffer losses if they backstabbed Xiao Wei. But, tell me, what can I do? Tang Yin lowered her head. She understood what Wei was implying. He wanted her to ask Lin Yi for money, but how was she supposed to ask Lin Yi for money now? Yuner, although I happen to have the 500,000 Lin Yi gave me, isn't that the money we use to buy a retail store? If we give it away, we won't be able to buy a store. Mrs. Tang interrupted. Look, can't you talk to Lin Yi and ask him for another 500,000? What do you want? Do you think he's a money tree? Tang Yin panicked and stood up abruptly. What money tree? He's rich, and this amount of money is nothing to him. Mrs. Tang looked at her daughter and said with disappointment, now that you have the capital to ask for money, you must ask for more. If you ask for more, he'll definitely agree. Mrs. Tang said, yes, sister, I beg you. Only brother-in-law can help you with this matter. If you don't go, what about Xiao Dan? You can't just watch as she walks into a tiger's den. Xiao Wei also hurriedly advised. You don't understand at all. You don't even know what happened between me and Lin Yi. Why do you always force me to ask for money? Why do you always force me? Tang Yin was so angry that she was on the verge of tears. She screamed at the top of her lungs, I already owe him so much money. How am I supposed to pay him back? How am I supposed to pay him back? I was the one who asked him for money, not you. What do you want me to do in the future? Mrs. Tang helplessly looked at her crazy daughter. Yuner, do you still not understand? Linny likes you. Your beauty is his capital. If you don't make good use of it, you'll regret it when he breaks up with you. Break up? That's right. We've already broken up. Tang Yin didn't want to talk about her scandal, but she was being forced into a corner. He doesn't want me anymore. Are you happy now? The money from this morning was his breakup fee. Ah, Mrs. Tang froze. Mr. Tang, Wei, and Dan froze as well. W, what did you say? Lenny broke up with you? You're joking, right? Joking? What kind of joke is this? Do I look like I'm joking? Tang Yin said as she recalled today's sad events and the grievances she'd suffered. Her eyes reddened, and tears started to flow down her cheeks. Mrs. Tang didn't know what to do. She was a snobbish person, but she was still on Tang Yin's side. She quickly picked up her daughter. Good girl, don't cry, Yin. It's fine if they broke up. I've said it before, he's a good-for-nothing, a hedonistic young master. Tang Yin found it funny at her mother's words. Her tears turned into a smile. Mom, didn't you say he was a good person? Mrs. Tang felt a bit awkward. Did he take advantage of you? No. Tang Yin shook her head. I told him that I can't do it before he brings me to his parents. That's good, that's good. Tang Yin was overjoyed. Since he didn't take advantage of him, then forget it. We even got $700,000 for free. It's a big win. Mom, what are you saying? You have to return that money. Tang Yin panicked when she heard that her mother was going to take Lin Yi's money for herself. How can I owe him that much and not pay him back? What's wrong with that? He dumped you, not the other way around. Besides, he gave you a breakup fee, so it's only right that we get it. Mrs. Tang said disapprovingly. Wei, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. He didn't think that his sister and Lin Yi had already broken up. He was hoping that his sister would borrow the money. But now, sister, what about me? Xiao Wei hung his head dejectedly, and Xiao Dan's face was also filled with despair. Wei, don't worry. I won't buy it anymore. I'll give you the money first. Mrs. Tang may be snobbish, but she wasn't a cold-blooded person. She was generous to her family. I know I'm in trouble, but I can't let you and Dan suffer. How about this? You give them the money first. Mom, you still want to touch that money? I told you I'd return it to Lin Yi. Tang Yin panicked. She told Xiao that she'd return the money to Lin Yi. How could she touch that money? The breakup fee is yours, of course. Do you want to see your brother die? Mrs. Tang glared at Tang Yin. It's good enough that he asked for some more money. You're giving it back to him? Tang Yin was speechless. She had to return the money, but she couldn't just ignore Wei's situation. What should she do? But if she took the money without any qualms, what would Lin Yi think of her? He'd definitely look down on her, and Xiao would laugh at her for being vain and acting all high and mighty. For a moment, Tang Yin was in a dilemma. Why are you so dumb? He played you. Isn't it normal for him to give you money? Mrs. Tang humphed. Chapter 482. Chapter 482. Sending money to the door. You can have fun with it or dump it. Mrs. Tang said with a wave of her hand. All right, it's decided. We'll go with Wei to that big boss later. Tang Yin felt that it wasn't right to use the money, but there was nothing she could do about it. It was her family's fault for being so unlucky. Sis, don't be sad. That bastard has eyes, but can't see. Don't worry, Wei, I'm a man too. I'll return the money to you. Wei said. He knew what his sister was worried about. I won't make it hard for you. Okay. Tang Yin nodded, comforted. At least Wei wasn't the type of person who only knew how to ask for money. It was enough for her. The bank card was opened under Tang Yin's name. Withdrawing $500,000 in one go, naturally, Tang Yin had to go there herself. They found a 24-hour bank, withdrew the money, and took a taxi with her mother, Wei, and Dan to the area where the big boss lived. Right here, it's so grand, Mrs. Tang said enviously as she looked at the luxurious facilities and beautiful houses. When will we be able to live in a house like this? Annie, this is Lead Shore. It's one of the most luxurious residential areas in the city. Everyone who lives here is rich, and one house is worth tens of millions. Wei had been here a couple of times, so he was familiar with the market here. Tens of millions? That's expensive. Mrs. Tang was taken aback. She looked at her daughter with pity. I was hoping that your uncle and I would have a chance to live in a mansion like this now that you've found yourself a rich husband. But it seems like that's not possible anymore. Mom, what are you talking about? Tang Yin frowned. This was something that hurt her, and she didn't want to talk about it. I won't talk about it. I won't talk about it. Mrs. Tang thought to herself. Should she find a chance to talk to Lin E and see if there was a chance for them to get back together? But these rich young masters probably already had someone arranged for them to marry. Why else would they break up with her without any warning? There had to be a reason behind it. Mrs. Tang was a shrewd old woman, and naturally, she was a bit more scheming than Tang Yin. She thought even further than Tang Yin. Plus, he didn't know about Xiao Xiao, so he thought that there had to be a reason why Lin Yi dumped his daughter. Mrs. Tang thought that even if Lin Yi couldn't marry her because of his engagement, he could at least be a mistress, right? My requirements are not high. I just want my family to buy a mansion on the bank of the Lead River. If he couldn't do it, he had to ask Lin Yi for another sum of money. He couldn't let him get away with it. Even if he didn't do anything to his daughter, he had hurt her feelings. Tang Yin didn't know that her mother was thinking of something snobbish again. She was still very pure, and naturally, she wouldn't think that her mother would have such embarrassing thoughts. If she knew, she would be furious. However, Mrs. Tang couldn't be blamed for being so snobbish. The fickleness of the world had frightened her. After suffering for so many years, she didn't want her daughter to suffer anymore. So she even thought of becoming a mistress. She couldn't be blamed. It's here. Wei pointed at an independent mansion. Mr. Zhou lives here. Mom, don't say anything when we go in. We can't just give him money this time. We have to make an agreement. Tang Yin took a deep breath and calmed herself down. She returned to normal and stopped thinking about what happened during the day. Tang Yin hadn't interacted with society before, but in a high-class private school like Songshan's first, she had interacted quite a bit. She knew that everything needed a contract. Her father didn't get any compensation because the contract wasn't clear. So she could give that Mr. Zhou some money this time, but he had to write an agreement that he wouldn't pursue Dan's responsibility in the future. All right, I'll listen to you. Mrs. Tang nodded, knowing that her daughter knew a lot. Only then did little Wei ring the doorbell of the villa. Zhou Tianyi had been very depressed these past 2 days. Not only did he offend Lin Yi, but he also offended Sihua. Both of these were people who could kill him instantly. He didn't even have the slightest intention to fight back. His opponents were too strong. Lin Yi was a master above golden class, and Sihua didn't lack golden class masters around him. He could still do whatever he wanted in Songshan with Uncle Yan's support, but now that Uncle Yan was crippled by Lin Yi, he didn't dare go out and show off anymore. Fuck, Zhou Tianyi used to be a big shot in Songshan, but now I'm this useless. Tianyi poured himself a glass of red wine and downed it in one gulp, depressed. But even though he was depressed, he was still glad. He might have offended Sihua, but it wasn't a deep grudge. He just didn't want to work with him, and Sihua wouldn't come after him for that. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had promised not to pursue the matter any further, so Tianyi felt a bit better. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Fortunately, there would be a pretty girl coming to play with him in a while, and that soothed Tianyi's depressed heart a little. Tianyi adjusted his clothes when he heard the doorbell. He knew that it had to be Dan. He'd given Dan an ultimatum: bring the money tonight, or clean her up and send her here. The maid went to open the door, and Tianyi walked out of the study and headed downstairs to the living room. Tang Yun, Mrs. Tang, Dan, and Wei came to the living room and sat on the sofa, awkwardly. Wei and Dan were a bit better, since they'd been here a few times before, but it was Tang Yun and Mrs. Tang's first time in a mansion like this, and they didn't know what to do. Dan, you're here, right? Are you going to give the money or the person? Tianyi said as he walked down the stairs, but paused when he saw the 4 people on the sofa. But because the sofa's back was facing the stairs, Tianyi couldn't see who they were. Mr. Zhou, we brought the money. Wei stood up and turned to Tianyi. What? You brought the money? Tianyi paused, and anger rushed to his head. He never would have thought that Wei would come up with another 500,000. How is that possible? Wei and Dan were from the countryside, and even if they borrowed from the whole village, they wouldn't be able to get that much money, would they? Chapter 483. Scared to the bone, but Wei's words shattered Tianyi's fantasies. Tianyi's dreams had been shattered in an instant, and he was furious. Yeah, We brought 500,000. We hope that you'll let Dan go, Mr. Zhou. Wei nodded. He didn't want to, but he was willing to give up the money if it could save Dan. Where's the 500,000? Tierney was pissed, but he couldn't go back on his words. He asked coldly, hoping to find something wrong and use it as an excuse to attack. It's with my sister, Wei said. Sis, can you take a look at him? Tang Yun found the voice familiar, and Wei called him Mr. Zhou. She suddenly realized that she knew this Mr. Zhou. He was Zhou Ruoming's father, Zhou Tiandi. Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't afraid of Zhou Tiandi when she was with Lin Yi, but now that Lin Yi had broken up with her, she'd lost Lin Yi's protection. Wouldn't she be at the mercy of the Zhou father and son? Tang Yun regretted coming here at the thought. She was afraid that Zhou Ruoming would do something outrageous again. Sis. Wei saw that Tang Yun wasn't moving and couldn't help but call out again. Tierney looked at Tang Yun's silhouette. It was a pretty little figure, and he couldn't help but be moved. Dirty thoughts popped up in his mind as he smiled lewdly. Oh, your sister's here too? Tang Yun was even more afraid of Tiandi's disgusting voice, but Wei had already called out to her. She had no choice but to brace herself and stand up. She turned around and opened the bag in her hand, pretending to be calm. Mr. Zhou, I've brought the money. I hope you can keep your promise and let my brother and Dan go. Wah? Tiandi froze. He never would have thought that the sister Wei was talking about was Tang Yun. Damn it, why am I so lucky? The more I want to avoid Lin Yi, the more I provoke people related to him. Am I possessed by the god of misfortune? Otherwise, who else could be as unlucky as him? Tiandi thought that Tang Yun was mocking him at first. He was scared out of his wits as his face paled. I don't want it anymore. I don't want the money anymore. Tang Yun frowned as she saw the change in Tiandi's expression. Was he going back on his word? Little Wei was also shocked, and Little Dan's expression also changed slightly. Director Zhou, didn't you say that you would release Lil Dan for 500,000? Why are you going back on your word? Little Wei was a little anxious. Mr. Zhou, you won't go back on your word, right? Tang Yun was shocked as well, but in order to not show her fear, she forced herself to remain calm. She couldn't soften at a time like this, or Tiandi would only make things worse. I say, Miss Tang. Ah, no. Sis Tang, I'm calling you sis now. Please stop messing with me. I didn't do it on purpose. I really didn't do it on purpose. How would I know that Dan is your sister-in-law? I wouldn't have dared to do anything if I had known. Tiandi almost cried. He thought that Tang Yun was mocking him on purpose. After all, a lot of times, powerful people liked to say the opposite when they wanted to show off. Tiandi had done it many times when he bullied the weak, so he subconsciously thought that Tang Yun was doing the same thing as well. Tiandi's reaction surprised everyone. Little Wei and Little Dan were dumbfounded, and so was Mrs. Tang. They didn't understand why Tiandi's attitude changed 180 degrees after seeing Tang Yun. Tang Yun frowned. After a short moment of confusion, she realized that Tiandi probably didn't know that she broke up with Lin Yi yet. That was why he was being so respectful to her. She could use this chance to leave, but Tang Yun was afraid that Tiandi would come after Wei after he found out that she broke up with Lin. It seemed like he wasn't being sarcastic. He really didn't want the money anymore. Although they didn't know the reason for this change, it was still a pleasant surprise. With that thought, Tang Yun said, Mr. Zhou, you should take the 500,000. This has to end, right? Tiandi thought that Tang Yun was purposely messing with him, and he was angry, but more than that, he was afraid. He knew from his son, Zhou Ruoming, that Lin Yi treated Tang Yun like a precious baby. Last time his son tried to rape Tang Yun, Lin Yi beat him up quite badly. How would he dare mess with Tang Yun again? Plus, Tang Yun's presence here most likely had something to do with Lin Yi. There was a limit to a person's patience. He wouldn't be happy if he kept messing with Lin Yi and the people around him, especially a master like Lin Yi. Masters usually didn't care about small fry, but if a small fry went too far, then a master wouldn't mind slapping a small fry to death. It was like a dog. You might ignore it if it barked at you, but if it came to bite you once, you might tolerate it. But if it kept on biting you and your family, then you might just kill it and eat its meat. Tiandi felt like he was that dog, and after messing with Lin Yi so many times, it wasn't long before he was slapped to death and so Tierney was completely terrified. He knelt on the ground with a thud, tears streaming down his face. Tang sis, I'm begging you, please don't play with me anymore. I know I'm wrong now. Please go back and tell Boss Lin that I'm blind. I'll slap my own face, okay? Just treat me like a fart and let me go. With that, Tierney raised his arm and started slapping himself across the face. Slap! Slap! The sound of the slaps didn't stop as Tierney pummeled himself with all his might, getting more and more pumped up as he hit himself. Tierney's words made Tang Yin blush. What do you mean by treat it like a fart and let it go? She was a girl, wasn't she? How could he be so vulgar? She couldn't help but glare at Tierney. Tierney's bad look gave Tang Yin some courage. Since he didn't want the money, then she'd let him write a contract. With a contract, she wouldn't have to worry about him going back on his words in the future. With that in mind, Tang Yin decided to go with the flow and use her connections to intimidate others. Chapter 484. Chapter 484. Amazing Mrs. Tang. At the same time, Little Wei and Little Dan were deeply shocked. The two of them were afraid of Tierney, but Tierney was even more afraid of Lin Yi than they were of him. Tierney was willing to throw away his pride just to get on Tang Yun's good side. It made Wei's blood boil. Wouldn't it be great if Lin Yi hadn't broken up with his sister and was his brother-in-law instead? He'd be able to take advantage of Lin Yi and show off. But why did he break up with his sister? What was so bad about his sister? She was pretty and had a good personality. She was 1 in a million. Was Lin Yi blind? But Wei knew that if Lin Yi was really that amazing, then he wouldn't lack women around him. His sister's advantage wouldn't be much of an advantage anymore. Mrs. Tang, on the other hand, was very emotional and regretful. If only Lin Yi hadn't broken up with Tang Yun. With a son-in-law as powerful as he was, who would dare mess with her family? Mr. Zhou was slapping himself in the face the moment he heard Lin Yi's name. He was too excited. My son-in-law said that if you cause trouble for my nephew again, he'll teach you a lesson, Mrs. Tang said with her hands on her waist. She didn't know why, but the words slipped out of her mouth. Tang Yin looked at her mother accusingly. What son-in-law? It was already out of the question, but she couldn't correct it right now. She couldn't let Tierney know, could she? She had no choice but to let her mother say whatever she wanted. I wouldn't dare. Tierney said quickly. It's Ani. I apologize for my rudeness. I'll be strict with myself and never cause trouble again. What about the 150,000 I gave you? Mrs. Tang humphed. Tierney calling her Ani at his age made Mrs. Tang feel a sense of accomplishment. Tierney was probably even older than her, wasn't he? Since when had Mrs. Tang ever been treated this way? She was overjoyed. Tang Yin knew that things were about to go south at her mother's words. Wouldn't this make Tierney suspicious? He wouldn't have given him that 150,000 if he'd known it was Zhou Tierney, but he'd given him another 150,000 just now. Mom, Lin Yi said that the 150,000 is what Wei owes him. We should just give it to him, Tang Yin said quickly. Tang Yin had no choice but to lie in order not to be exposed. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to smooth things over. Mrs. Tang, on the other hand, was a little reluctant. She could have used Lin Yi's name to get back the 150,000 yuan. Why did her daughter not want it? Yes, I will return the 150,000 immediately. Immediately? Tierney didn't have time to think about that. Tang Yin was worrying too much, and with Tang Yin's words, Tierney wouldn't be suspicious at all, because that was Lin Yi's personality. He didn't have a time to find fault with small matters. As long as it didn't touch his bottom line, it was usually fine. But although Tang Yin said that Lin Yi didn't want the 150,000 yuan, Mrs. Tang was the one who asked. Tierney didn't dare refuse. What if Lin Yi's mother-in-law wasn't happy and said a few bad things about him at home? Lin Yi would tear him apart, wouldn't he? Tierney thought that it would be such a waste if he lost his life over such a small matter. So whether Tang Yin wanted it or not, he'd just give the money to Mrs. Tang and shut her mouth. It'd be best if she could put in a few good words for him and make Lin Yi give up on causing trouble for him. With that thought, Tierney scrambled up the stairs. Tang Yin glared at her mother, but Mrs. Tang didn't mind. If she could get the money, So what if she borrowed Lin Yi's name? Little Wei and Little Dan were also shocked. Just how strong was Lin Yi to be able to scare Tianyi like this? As far as they knew, Tianyi was a super powerful man. He had money, power, and power. His eldest son, Zhou Ruawang, was the leader of the gangsters in the North District. With a status like that, he was one of the tyrants in Songshan. But Lin, he wasn't even here yet. His sister was here, and she scared him to the point of pissing his pants. If Lin, he was here, would he have to kneel and kowtow? But Wei and Dan didn't dare say anything. They didn't want to mess things up, so they could only talk about it at night. It wasn't long before Tianyi came downstairs. Perhaps it was because he was in a hurry, but he slipped and fell down the stairs like a slide. Tianyi didn't care about the pain on his butt at all as he handed a bag to Mrs. Tang. "Auntie, this is for you. Didn't I say I don't want it?" Tang Yin didn't insist after seeing Tianyi take the money. She didn't really stop him. She knew that there was no point in stopping him. The money was in her mother's hands, and she wouldn't be able to get it back. Mrs. Tang beamed as she took the bag. She sat down on the sofa and started counting the contents. Tang Yin was speechless. Tianyi was already like this. He wouldn't dare give less, but she was still counting money in front of him as if she'd never seen money before. Wasn't this embarrassing? Tang Yin stomped her feet in anger, but she couldn't say anything. But Tianyi saw Tang Yun's expression. He didn't think much of Mrs. Tang counting money. He knew Tang Yun's family background very well. They were a poor family in the slums, so it was normal for Mrs. Tang to be greedy. Tang Yin stomping her feet didn't seem like a big deal to Tianyi. Tang Yin was in a relationship with Lin Yi now, and she had plenty of money. She probably didn't care about the money. Why is there an extra 50,000? Mrs. Tang counted the money in the bag. She was surprised to find that there was an extra 50,000 in the bag. "Annie, this 150,000 has been with me for so long. Of course, I have to pay interest." "This 50,000 will be the interest," Tianyi said quickly. He was hoping that Lin Yi's mother-in-law would put in a good word for him, and Tianyi knew Mrs. Tang's weakness very well. She was greedy. The extra 50,000 was for Mrs. Tang's good graces. Tianyi believed that Mrs. Tang wouldn't blame him anymore. She'd even praise him. As expected, Mrs. Tang's smile grew wider after hearing Tianyi's words. "Good, not bad. You're pretty good." Mrs. Tang happily put the money back into the bag and turned to Tang Yin. "Ian, let's go then. We won't disturb Mr. Zhou's rest anymore." "Wait, Mr. Zhou, please write me an IOU. Make it clear that you won't cause trouble for my brother and Dan anymore." Tang Yin remembered this important thing. She needed an IOU. What if Tianyi went back on his word? Chapter 485. The grievances. It didn't matter what Tang Yun's motives were. Zhou Tianyi would try his best to satisfy her if she asked for it. He didn't have any other thoughts. He just thought that Tang Yun was very careful. If it was Lin Yi, he wouldn't be this polite. Lin Yi wouldn't ask him for anything. He'd beat him up until he couldn't write anything anymore. Not only did Zhou Tianyi write it down, stating that he would never cause trouble for Wei and Dan ever again, but he also returned the contract he signed with Dan. This meant that Dan would have nothing to do with him from now on. Tang Yin let out a sigh of relief after getting the contract. She didn't want to stay in Zhou Tianyi's house any longer. She nodded and turned to her mother. "Let's go then." "Wait." Tianyi called out to Tang Yun's family. Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat. Did Zhou Tianyi see something? Did he know that she was acting tough? "Mr. Zhou, are you going back on your word?" Tang Yin turned around, trying to sound calm. Mrs. Tang, Wei, and Dan, on the other hand, paled in fright. They didn't turn around, and Zhou Tianyi didn't see it either. "No, Sis Tang, you've misunderstood." Tianyi jumped and quickly explained. "What I mean is, I'll send a car to send you back. It's late, and you guys have money on you. It's not safe. It wasn't Tianyi's fault. He had no choice but to do so. Tang Yun's family had so much money on them, and with the 200,000 from before, they had 700,000 in total. It wasn't safe to go out at night. If something happened and they got robbed, and Linny thought he was the one who sent the robbers, they'd be screwed. So, in order to prove his innocence, Zhou Tianyi had to send a car to escort them home himself. He was relieved when they got home. I see. That's fine. Mrs. Tang agreed. It wasn't safe to bring so much money this late at night. Tierney quickly called the driver after Mrs. Tang agreed, telling him to drive the company's car back. He then put on his jacket and prepared to send the family home. Mr. Zhou, you should rest. There's no need for you. Tang Yin didn't want Tierney to follow her. It'd be bad if he noticed something. What if Lin Yi sees you and gets angry again? Quack! Tierney jumped in fright at Tang Yun's words. She was right. If Lin Yi couldn't see him, he could let it go after a few days. But what if Lin Yi saw him and beat him up? Tierney said gratefully. Thank you, Sister Tang. I was a little unwise. Since that's the case, I won't send you off. It's not that I'm lacking in etiquette, but I really don't dare to. Mrs. Tang, Wei, and Dan breathed a sigh of relief. But Mrs. Tang turned around and said haughtily, there's no need for that. I'll talk to my son-in-law later. I won't scare you anymore. Sigh. Thank you, Andy. Tierney was overjoyed. He was waiting for Mrs. Tang to say that. Tierney's driver came quickly. He told the driver that he had to respect Tang Yin's family even more than he respected himself before letting the driver drive off. Tierney's driver was very responsible. He'd rather walk on the dirt road and scratch the undercarriage of the car. He only left after sending the family home. Everyone let out a sigh of relief when they got home. The show was quite successful, and the happiest person was Mrs. Tang. Not only did she not have to pay, but she also got $200,000. It was a blessing from the heavens. Mom, how could you say that? I don't have anything to do with Lin Yi anymore, and you're still calling him your son-in-law? Aren't you trying to embarrass me? Tang Yin felt a little embarrassed when she got home. She didn't want to use Lin Yi's name. He didn't want her anymore, and she was using his name. Wasn't that shameless? Tang Yin was too ashamed to show her face. That's nothing. Mrs. Tang didn't think much of it. That bosso doesn't know anyways. Right, daughter, is there still a chance between you and Lin Yi? Why doesn't he want you anymore? Tang Yin was a little embarrassed. She didn't want to talk about Lin Yi, especially when Wei and Dan were here. It was even harder to talk about Lin Yi. Wait, Dan, it's getting late. You two should go home and stop contacting Bosso. Mrs. Tang saw through Tang Yin's thoughts and turned to Wei and Dan. Wei was curious as to why Lin Yi and Tang Yin broke up. He wanted them to get back together, so he wanted to stay and listen. But his sister seemed to have something she couldn't talk about. He couldn't stay any longer. He stood up and pulled Dan. Auntie, we'll go back first. Be careful on the road. Give me a call when you get home. Mrs. Tang sent Wei and Dan off and went back into the house. She held her daughter's hand. Yin, tell me, why did you guys break up? I saw that Lin Yi treated you pretty well, didn't he? I didn't see anything wrong this morning. How'd he break up? Mom, he had a girlfriend before. His girlfriend transferred to our school, and she's sitting at the same table as him. Tang Yin found it hard to say it out loud, but her mother pressed on. She gritted her teeth and blushed. Mom, you said he had a girlfriend before. Why'd he try to mess with me then? Mother and daughter were connected. Tang Yin let go of her strong front in front of her mother and started crying in her mother's arms. Yin, don't cry. Mrs. Tang sighed. It wasn't like what she guessed. It wasn't that Lin Yi didn't like her daughter anymore, but that the main character came and forced Lin Yi to break up with her. Mom, why is he so bad? Why would he bother me when he has a girlfriend? I'm so embarrassed. How am I supposed to raise my head in the future? Tang Yin felt more and more wronged as she spoke. Yin, Mrs. Tang sighed. It's all Mom's fault. It's all because we're poor. If we were rich, Lin Yi wouldn't have broken up with you. His girlfriend must be from a rich family, right? His family must have gotten her for him, right? Yeah, he drives a sports car to school. Tang Yi nodded. She wasn't lying. That's what I said. Otherwise, why would Lin Yi break up with you? Mrs. Tang said as she stroked her daughter's hair. Did his girlfriend come looking for you? Chapter 486. Xiao Xiao and Daughter. HM? Mrs. Tang's eyes lit up at her daughter's words. Yin, you're saying that Lin Yi's girlfriend doesn't mind you being a mistress? Tang Yin blinked, but understood what her mother was getting at. She frowned. Mom, you're not thinking of making me a mistress, are you? If that's the case, then don't even mention it. I wouldn't do something so embarrassing. Mrs. Tang didn't say anything else after seeing her daughter's determination. She patted her daughter's shoulder. All right, don't cry, Ian. Who knows? Maybe Lin will change his mind one day. Who cares about him changing his mind? I don't want to talk to him anymore. Tang Yun stomped her feet. I'm going to study. I was too stupid to trust him before. I won't do it again. With that, Tang Yun ran into her room and told her mother everything. She felt much better now, not as depressed and wronged as before. Mrs. Tang shook her head regretfully as she looked at her daughter's back. She sighed to herself. Ying, you still don't know how hard life is. You'll know how painful it is when you're as old as I am. She thought back to her classmates, many of whom weren't as pretty as she was when they were young, but they were rich now. They took good care of themselves, and she, on the other hand, was the prettiest girl in school when she was young. It was rare to have a man that her daughter liked, and he liked her as well. It wouldn't be embarrassing to be a mistress. When he attended a class reunion, there was a divorced woman who became the mistress of a big boss and kept bragging about it to everyone. Not only did no one despise her, but they were also very envious of her. Before leaving, they did not forget to ride in her BMW to satisfy their cravings. Laugh at the poor, but not at the prostitutes. It wasn't a nice saying, but it indirectly reflected the helplessness of reality. Xiao Xiao took her blood numbly and was sent to do a CT scan and all sorts of tests. It was the same every time, and the results were always the same. Xiao Xiao yawned as she laid on the hospital bed board. Tianlong walked in, looking at his daughter with concern. Xiao Xiao, what do you want to eat tonight? Daddy's bringing you? I'll take a leave of absence these 2 days to accompany you. No need. You go do what you need to do. Xiao Xiao shook her head, her eyes empty as she looked at the cars outside. Are the results out yet? When can I go back? Xiao Xiao only asked if the results were out, and when she could go back. It was obvious that she didn't have any hope for a cure. She just wanted to go back after the checkup. Otherwise, if he could be treated, he would definitely stay in the hospital. Not yet, but Dr. Zheng is an expert in hereditary diseases. He should have a way. Tianlong comforted. You don't have to comfort me. Even a legendary Dr. Lin Dongfang couldn't do anything about my mother's illness. How could anyone else? Xiao Xiao curled her lips. She'd basically lost all hope. She just wanted to do something spontaneous in the last stages of her life. That way, she wouldn't have any regrets. Miracle Dr. Lin also said that it wasn't that he couldn't save her, but he lacked some conditions. Tianlong said helplessly. Miracle Dr. Lin said that if he had 5 years, he might be able to find a solution, but your mother can't wait 5 years. Isn't that just an excuse for being useless? Xiao Xiao humphed. Who knows if he can cure her? Maybe he's afraid of ruining his own reputation? No. Miracle Dr. Lin has been researching the special ingredients in your mother's blood. But after that last meeting, he went into seclusion. Tianlong said helplessly. He can't cure her, so he went into seclusion. Xiao Xiao didn't think much of it. All those miracle doctors are like that, and that bullshit Dr. Kong. What else could he do other than make medicine? Everyone calls him a miracle doctor. What a joke. You were young back then, so you didn't understand Miracle Dr. Lin. He's a stubborn person. For your mother, he risked his life and went to Miaojiang to research poison. Tianlong didn't have the heart to scold his daughter, but he still lectured her. You can't disrespect him. Fine, fine. Xiao Xiao waved her hand. If he's so stubborn, why did he go into seclusion? Your mother's illness isn't that easy to research, is it? Tianlong smiled bitterly. I've been trying to contact him recently, but I haven't been able to. Captain Yang, who brought me on a mission back then, was close to Miracle Dr. Lin, but he went into seclusion as well. So, it's not easy to research. Then why did you bring me here? Xiao Xiao frowned. The results are still a few days away. I'll take you around Yinjing these 2 days. It'll be a good time to relax. Tianlong didn't answer his daughter's question directly. He knew that Dr. Zheng wouldn't be able to do anything with the results, but having hope was better than having no hope at all. Oh, Xiao Xiao replied faintly. She didn't say that she was going, but she didn't say that she wasn't interested either. Someone gave Dad an invitation to an auction. Do you want to go? Tianlong suddenly remembered that House Yu's auction was in a few days, and he received an invitation as well. The organization that Feng Tianlong belonged to was called the Secret Investigation Bureau. It was a very special secret agent organization that had a close relationship with the host of the auction, House Yu. House Yu would always send a lot of tickets to the Secret Investigation Bureau, but most of them didn't have the time to attend the auction. The invitation was just a courtesy. Auction? Let's go then. Xiao Xiao had never been to an auction before, but now that her father mentioned it, she wanted to go. It'd be such a waste if she didn't get to go to an auction before she died. But if there's anything you like, I don't have the money to buy it. Tianlong smiled regretfully. Dad's salary is high, but I can't afford to auction items that are worth millions. Huh? Xiao Xiao finally smiled. She wanted this feeling of novelty, the feeling of her father bringing her to play. It didn't matter if she bought it or not. Xiao Xiao had heard her father say that he was going to walk around with her a lot of times, and it was always because he had a mission, so he'd skipped a few times. But this time, her father said that he was going to an auction, and he'd even brought out an invitation. No skipping. Tianlong was happy to see the smile on Xiao Xiao's face. I won't. There's 3 rounds. I can at least watch one with you. Chapter 487. The auction begins. The auction was split into 3 days, with different items being auctioned each day. Of course, it didn't mean that one invitation could participate in all 3 auctions. Only those big families and a very small number of celebrities had the golden invitation to participate in all 3 auctions. The ordinary red invitation indicated the number of auctions one could participate in, and it was only valid on the day of the auction. Red invitations were for the common rich and famous people. They could participate in the auction as well, but they weren't as valuable as the golden ones. Fatty Lie's invitation was a red one, but he'd gotten all 3 days' worth of invitations. Xu Min, on the other hand, was a golden one. It was enough to show that Xu Min had the right to sit on the same level as the big houses. The items auction got more and more valuable as the days went by. The items on the first day were rare items, but the base price ranged from a few $100,000 to 2 million, never exceeding 2 million. The second day was 2 million to 5 million, and the third day was for items that were worth more than 5 million. Normal rich people could only participate in the first day of the auction, and the second and third days were just for the show. Many people didn't bother getting invitations for the second and third days, and even if they did, they'd just give them to their friends who liked to watch the show. There were different types of invitations, but the auction didn't have a fixed seating area. People were usually seated randomly, and close family friends would sit closer to each other. There were a lot of seats in the auction house, and not even a third of the seats could be filled. There was no need to worry about not being able to find a seat. Lin Yi, Xu Min, and Fatty Lai found a place with fewer people and sat down. It didn't take long for more and more people to arrive at the auction house. All the houses had sent their representatives, but normally, the heads of the houses wouldn't show up. The lights dimmed, and a few spotlights lit up the auction stage. A man in his 30s walked out from behind the curtain, and the auction house quieted down. Welcome, guests, to the annual auction hosted by House Yu. The man bowed politely, and the crowd burst into thunderous applause. House Yu. Lin Yi paused for a moment, and a trace of excitement flashed across his calm face before returning to normal. Boss, this House Yu is the biggest and most mysterious noble house. They rose up in the last 10 years, but they become the leader of all the noble houses. Fatty Lai whispered to Lin Yi, "It's best not to piss off House Yu, but with your status, haha, even House Yu would try to curry favor with you, right?" "Huh, is that so?" Lin Yi smiled faintly. "Who's that?" "His name is Yu Haitian. He's not a core member of House Yu. He's just a side relative. But he's already someone that outsiders want to curry favor with. He's able to manage the auction on his own," Fatty Lai said. Lin Yi took a deep breath and nodded silently, smiling. "I don't think we'll have any more interactions." "Yeah, House Yu is very mysterious. I don't know what they do, but they're involved in a lot of businesses. It's just that the people they send aren't the core members of House U. Fatty Lie shook his head with a smile. Let's continue watching the auction. Our pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is being auctioned today. These people are blind. They can't recognize the good stuff. Fatty Lie wasn't happy when he thought about the starting price of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Why was such a good thing only worth $1 million? Wasn't this a scam? Huh, it's nothing. Lin, he shook his head. It's already beyond my expectations that it's priced at $1 million. No one knows about it, after all. We'll have to try to know its effects. That's true. Fatty Lie didn't feel conflicted anymore after hearing Lin Yi's words. Right, boss, if there's anything you like, just tell me. I'll get it for you. Okay. Lin, he didn't hold back. There was always a chance that he'd find something he liked in this auction. There was at least one item that Lin he was determined to get. Lin he had already seen the catalog for today's auction. The third item was a torn sheepskin scroll, a tattered map. Of course, to a normal person, this was probably just an old map. Even if it was an antique, it wouldn't be worth much. It was just a novelty. Most importantly, this was only a small part of the map. It wasn't a complete map, so it was basically a piece of trash. Whether it was a collector's item or actual value, it wasn't worth much. If Lin he didn't have that piece of the map from the shark's stomach, Lin he wouldn't even pay attention to trash like this. But from the thumbnail of the catalog, this map was exactly the same as the one he'd gotten from the shark's stomach in terms of material and craftsmanship. Naturally, Lin Yi's interest was piqued. Will there be a lot of people fighting for this? Lin he didn't know much about auctions. He didn't know what would be popular, so he pointed at the map and asked Fatty Lie. Fatty Lie looked at the item Lin he was pointing at, and his eyes widened. No way, boss. You're interested in this? What? Is there a problem? Lin he frowned. He didn't know what Fatty Lie's expression meant. Fatty Lie realized that his expression was a little exaggerated, so he explained awkwardly, Boss, in this auction, the earlier the item is, the less valuable it is, and the less people will buy it. Of course, there's always the possibility of a dark horse appearing. But to be honest, I really don't see any use for this thing. Huh. Then help me bid for it. Lin he let out a breath of relief. It wouldn't be easy if there were a lot of people fighting for it. On the catalog, the base price of the map was $100,000. It seemed like Fatty Lie was right. It wasn't something that was popular. The first auction item was a complete piece of jade that had not been carved. This kind of thing, if it was brought to an ordinary auction, would be a treasure of the finale. However, there were very few people bidding for it here. Obviously, those real aristocratic families and rich people did not care about this at all. The base price was $1 million, and in the end, it was won by a man with a red invitation card for $2 million. It didn't attract much attention. Chapter 488. The second map fragment appears. This kind of thing would have caused quite a stir in a normal auction, but the noble house heirs obviously weren't interested in it here. In the end, it was won by a normal merchant with a red invitation card, and the price wasn't more than 150,000 renminbi. The third item was the map fragment that Lin he had his eyes on. The starting price was 100,000 renminbi, and when the auctioneer showed it, there was a brief silence in the hall. Because the description on the map was very brief, and the lines on the map were not clear, no one knew what this thing was used for. Even if it was an antique, there was no corresponding appraisal report, and it was not even clear when it was made. If it wasn't an antique, there was no explanation of what it was used for. It was similar to the hand-drawn maps used by bandits in the old days, and it was just a fragment. This kind of thing didn't have any real value at all. It was fine to sell it in the antique market to people who didn't know anything about it, but in an auction, it seemed a little out of place. However, there were always some strange things that appear in auctions, and while many of them were left unsold, there were always a few of them every year. In fact, the auctioneer didn't know what this map fragment was, so there was no introduction. Therefore, there was no introduction at all. According to the introduction on the booklet, this was a strange sheepskin map. It might be a treasure map of a huge treasure. Of course, he also said that it was just a possibility. There were many possibilities, like picking up 1 million RMB on the streets. No one would believe something as ridiculous as that. The noble house heirs and rich merchants who came to the auction weren't idiots. They were here for things that were useful to them, and naturally, they wouldn't participate in anything they didn't want. An auction wasn't a market, after all. Things they didn't want had to be bought in the end, and they couldn't go back on their word. As a result, no one made a bid for a useless map fragment like this. It wasn't like the auctioneer hadn't encountered a situation like this before. There were plenty of items that were left unsold, and this one wouldn't make much of a difference. He cleared his throat. Auction item number 3, a sheepskin map. Anyone up for bidding? 110,000. Fatty Lie raised the sign in his hand. This thing might really be a treasure. I'll buy it and study it. Fatty Lie's words attracted a lot of confused and disdainful gazes from the crowd. Finding the treasure with a tattered map like this? That was ridiculous. Fatty Lie looked like a rich nouveau riche, and those who knew him were confused. Fatty Lie was a smart guy, so why would he buy such a tattered map? Could it be that he wanted to show off? Those who didn't know him all thought that Fatty Lie was an idiot with nowhere to spend his money. 110,000. Mr. No. 183 offers 110,000. Is there anyone with a higher price? The auctioneer was slightly taken aback. However, it was naturally good that there were people participating. Although it was only 110,000, 20% of the profits would go to the auction house. Even if a mosquito was small, it was still meat. 110,000 going once. 110,000 going twice. The auctioneer looked at the people present, hoping that someone would raise the price, but unfortunately, no one did. These rich kids weren't idiots. They wouldn't bid for something useless, and they might even become enemies with the other bidders. Those who could participate in this auction were people who put profit first. No one was willing to do something that would harm others without benefiting themselves. If they were useless, then they might as well not participate and leave it to someone who was useful. But if they were useful, then they'd definitely fight until their necks were red. Messing around like this was rare, unless the two people had a grudge against each other. In a corner of the auction house, a man's face tensed up when he heard that someone was bidding. He said into the earpiece, "Second uncle, do you need me to raise the price?" The other party seems to be very cautious. I don't know if he wants it or not. A middle-aged man's voice came from the earpiece. "Let's see if we can add 10 or 20,000 symbolically." "Okay," the man replied. When the auctioneer said 110,000 going thrice, he raised the sign in his hand and said 120,000. "Oh, looks like it's something good. I'll have to raise the price then." Fatty Lie looked at the man with a surprised expression. He didn't wait for the auctioneer to speak and stood up. 125,000. Everyone at the scene froze. They were wondering if the scroll was something good when they saw someone bidding for it, but after hearing Fatty Lie's words, they understood. Fatty Lie's way of bidding was enough to tell that he wasn't determined to get it. Otherwise, why would he bid like this? It was like he was being shameless. Although the minimum price for an item with a starting price of 100,000 was 5,000, it was rare for people to do that. They usually increased the price by 10,000 or 10,000. Fatty Lie's increase could only mean that he didn't care about this item. If someone tried to compete with him, he'd just raise the price symbolically. If the other party raised the price too high, he'd just give up. So the crowd wasn't interested in participating. Participating now was equivalent to starting a feud. It was all up to these two. "Second uncle, what does he mean by this?" the man asked hesitantly. "I don't know. Add another 5,000 and we'll see. If he raises the price again, just give up," the middle-aged man said. 130,000. The man raised the sign in his hand. 135,000. Fatty Lie shook his butt and raised the sign. "Give up," the middle-aged man said. "Get someone to investigate his background." "Okay," the man said and didn't raise the sign again. 135,000 going once, 135,000 going twice sold. The auctioneer slammed the hammer down. The people who wanted to watch the show were disappointed. The person bidding against Fatty Lie was obviously just playing around. He didn't have any intention of getting it, and Fatty Lie probably had the same intention. As a result, no one thought that the map fragment would be anything good. Fatty Lie didn't look happy at all after the deal was done, and they were even more certain that he was only bidding for it for fun. He wasn't going to get it for real. Congratulations to Mr. Number 183 for winning this sheepskin scroll at the price of $135,000. Later, a staff member will contact you to discuss the delivery. After the auctioneer finished speaking, he began to introduce the next auction item. Chapter 489. Directly adding 100 million. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was arranged to be the 10th item to be auctioned. The auctioneer was the same as the sheepskin scroll before, not having much information about it. He didn't know what this item was, and nothing like it had ever appeared in an auction before. The auctioneer had no choice but to follow the instructions on the booklet. But he added a line during the introduction, something that Fatty Lie had specifically requested. As long as the seller's request wasn't too troublesome, the auctioneer would usually fulfill it. The next item is 3 pill of life extension and toxin cleansing provided by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. The starting price for each is 1 million, and the 3 will be auctioned off in 3 separate rounds. The auctioneer paused at this point because the auction house was in an uproar. Very few of them had heard of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and this was the first time they'd heard of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Just what kind of company was this? Just what kind of pill was the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Everyone present was familiar with health supplements and cherished their lives. So if there was really such a good thing as prolonging one's life, it was impossible for them not to know about it. However, they really didn't know about this thing that appeared in the auction. Besides, wasn't 1 million a little too high? And it was only for 1? Would anyone buy it? Everyone here didn't lack money, but no one was willing to waste their money, especially something that came out of nowhere like this. Who would even try it? The awkward silence that followed the uproar was within the auctioneer's expectations. Something like this happened at the auction every year, so the auctioneer wasn't surprised. He continued, "This pill of life extension and toxin cleansing can expel impurities from the body. As we all know, when humans eat grains, some toxins will accumulate in their bodies. Although some of it has been expelled, some of it remains in the body. The longer it is, the more toxins accumulate. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing can cleanse the marrow and bones, expelling the toxins from the body and achieving the goal of extending one's lifespan." The auctioneer didn't quite believe the description of the pill himself. It sounded like the strength pills of the martial arts world. And if this pill really had such an effect, then 1 million wouldn't be expensive at all. But was there such a thing? The first pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. The starting price is 1 million. Please bid. The auctioneer had already made preparations for the item to be left unsold. As long as no one bid for the first item, no one would bid for the second or third item. The auction would then be dismissed, and the next item would be auctioned off. Because the auction of an antique vase took up some time and the bidding was fierce, it was impossible for the auction to end within the estimated time. The auctioneer wanted to save as much time as possible. Others might not understand the effects of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, but there were people here who did. Lu Qianni understood, and so did Dr. Kong. However, Dr. Kong didn't dare confirm whether this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was the same as the one Kong Xiaobo had given him, or was it a scam? They even made a miracle, Dr. Guan. Isn't that obviously imitating you, Elder Kong? Xiao Ji, who was sitting not too far from Dr. Kong, said mockingly, "I think this is a scam." He and Xiao Ben had just received the invitation today, but their father's invitation had always been golden this year. This year's invitation was red, and although they'd received 3 days' worth of invitations, it was clear that the Xiao family wasn't as important as it used to be. There was nothing they could do about it. Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben were furious, but getting an invitation was already good enough. What more could they ask for? The more it was like this, the more Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben felt that they had to ally with House Kong in order to protect their position as a noble house. Dr. Kong frowned, as if he'd thought of something, but he wasn't sure. Miracle Dr. Guan. This miracle Dr. Guan could be Guan Xiumin. He recalled that the person beside Kong Xiaobo seemed to have a good relationship with Guan Xiumin. Could it be that the true owner of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was Guan Xiumin? Just as Dr. Kong was hesitating, someone stood up and called out a price. 100 million. Fatty Lai raised the card in his hand. The crowd was in an uproar, including the auctioneer. They all stared at Fatty Lai dumbfounded. He'd been the auctioneer for House Yu for 10 years, but he'd never come across a situation like this. How could someone raise the price like this? An item with a starting price of 1 million was raised to 100 million in the first auction? How is that possible? Mr. 183, please repeat your bid. I didn't hear you clearly. It was embarrassing for the auctioneer to not hear the bidder clearly, but he didn't care anymore. The situation was too absurd, and he couldn't believe that Fatty Lai would bid 100 million. He must have heard wrong. The auctioneer was confused, but Yu Haitian, who'd been sitting below the stage, frowned slightly. House Yu was the host, but they were also part of the auction. Yu Haitian was sitting with a middle-aged man. If one looked closely, they'd see that the middle-aged man was wearing an earpiece. The auctioneer didn't know, but Yu Haitian knew very well that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was provided by Fatty Lai. Was he buying the pill himself, or was he trying to raise the price? In the auction, there were indeed some people who wanted to raise the price of their items and participate in false bidding. The host of the auction knew this very well, and so in order to prevent this from happening, the host of the auction would take a commission, and House Yu's commission was as high as 20%. This way, even if someone wanted to raise the price, they have to take a huge risk. If they succeeded, then everyone would be happy. The host of the auction would take a lot of commission, and the seller would get the price they wanted. But if they failed, the seller would have to spend money to buy their item. In other words, the host of the auction would take a 20% commission. Of course, they could choose not to buy the item after the deal, but they'd have to pay the host of the auction a 20% commission. So no matter what, this 20% commission was a loss, and normal people wouldn't raise the price so easily. Chapter 490. An astronomical bid. Lu Tianyi gritted his teeth in anger. Fatty Lai was twisting his but as he raised his paddle, and Lu Tianyi was furious. Other people didn't know what the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was, but Lu Tianyi did. How could something Lin, it may be anything bad? Just look at Fatty Lai's father, and you'd know if this thing was good or not. He didn't expect Fatty Lai to raise the price to 100 million right off the bat. Did he know how to buy things? Even if he had the money, he wouldn't spend it like that, would he? House Lu might be rich, but they couldn't just throw away 100 million like that. But as angry as he was, he knew the true value of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Even 100 million was an understatement. And so, Lu Tianyi raised his paddle without hesitation. 110 million. Wah! The crowd was in an uproar. It was one thing for Fatty Lai to go crazy earlier, but Lu Tianyi was the first-in-line heir to the House Lu. How could he possibly follow Fatty Lai's lead? He'd even raised the price to 110 million. Could this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing really be something good? The auctioneer sucked in a breath of cold air. Holy sh**t. This kind of bidding was a once-in-a-thousand-year wait. Yu Haitian's brows furrowed even tighter. If Fatty Lai was driving up the price, then why was Lu Tianyi joining in the fun? As far as Yu Haitian was concerned, this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing might actually be something good. Had he misjudged it when he evaluated it? 150 million. Fatty Lai raised his paddle again. Lu Tianyi's lungs were about to explode. What was the meaning of this, Fatty Lai? Were you trying to fight with me? Don't think that I don't have money just because you're rich. Lu Tianyi raised his paddle again, calling out a price that caused the crowd to go wild. 200 million. Originally, everyone held a wait-and-see attitude. They wanted to see if others would make a move before deciding whether they would make a move or not. Many of the people present knew Lu Tianyi, and if Lu Tianyi had his eyes on something, how could it not be something good? But now they really couldn't make a move. Firstly, the price had been raised to 200 million, which was really too high. Secondly, they really didn't want to become enemies with Lu Qianni. From Lu Qianni's way of bidding, it could be seen that he was determined to get this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have increased the price like this. Therefore, even if there were some people who were tempted, it would not be good to bid now. Fortunately, there were a total of 3, and there were still 2 left. They all began to rub their fists, because the way Lu Qianni was chasing after the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing reminded them of something. It wasn't a secret that Lu Qianni's father had gone to see Guan Xuemin a while ago. So many people present knew about it. Connecting the dots to the miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company that the auctioneer mentioned, they immediately thought of Guan Xuemin. Could it be that Lu Qianni's father's condition had improved because of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Those who knew Fatty Lai at the same time had an even greater realization. Fatty Lai's father had contracted uremia and was about to meet the king of hell when he suddenly got discharged from the hospital. Not only was his face glowing, but he was also eating well. He was even healthier than an old man his age. Even if his uremia wasn't completely cured, he was almost fully recovered. This miraculous situation made everyone present understand. Fatty Lai and Lu Qianni weren't idiots. They both knew how good this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was. Why else would they dare to increase the price so much? 250 million. Fatty Lai's eyes were red. This was a rare treasure, and even Lin, he said it was rare. It had to be very precious. Fatty Lai was too embarrassed to ask Lin Yi for it, so he could only bid for it himself. 280 million. Lu Qianni gritted his teeth and called out the highest price he could. The crowd was in an uproar again. If Lu Qianni didn't know about the effects of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, he wouldn't have called out this price. There was only one answer. The auctioneer's introduction was true. This pill really had the effects of prolonging life and detoxifying. Fatty Lai was about to call out another price when Lin Yi pulled him back, shaking his head. Stop, it's a little expensive. Ugh. All right. Fatty Lai didn't want to give up, but he didn't dare disobey Lin Yi. Lin Yi was his boss. Losing the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was painful, but offending Lin Yi would be worse than death. Your dad drank the medicine I made for you. He doesn't need this anymore, Lin Yi said faintly to Fatty Lai. You don't have to fight for it. Thank you so much, boss. Fatty Lai was overjoyed. He'd wanted to prepare an emergency pill for his father, but Lin Yi said he could cure it. Fatty Lai, on the other hand, wanted one for himself. After all, this was an immortal pill. Thus, he said, Boss, I also want one for myself. Oh, I'll give you one when we get back, Lin Yi said nonchalantly. Fatty Lai burst into tears at Lin Yi's words. People who didn't know better would think that he was crying because he didn't have the money to bid for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. 280 million going once, 280 million going twice, 280 million going thrice. Sold. The auctioneer was extremely excited. This price could be said to be the most expensive item in the entire auction. Even the items on the third day of the auction might not be sold at such a price. This pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had the right to be auctioned in the third round. But since it was already in the first round, there was no changing it. They could only continue. Lu Qianni was overjoyed when he saw Fatty Lai stop bidding and start sobbing. This Fatty Lai must be out of money. He heard that House Lai's boss was trying to split from him, and it seemed like House Lai's money had all been taken by Lai Changtian. Next, the second pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, with a starting price of 100 million. The auctioneer said slowly, every increment must be at least 10 million. The auctioneer could increase the price according to the market and the response. With the previous example, the auctioneer wouldn't start with a starting price of 1 million again. That would be a joke. Although this price shocked the guests present, they also knew that this thing was indeed worth the price, so they didn't have any objections. Dad, what's that? How can it be sold for such a high price? Xiao Xiao looked at her father, confused. Chapter 491. How He makes a move. Tianlong, on the other hand, had a frown on his face. His heart was in turmoil, unable to calm down. Was there such a miraculous pill in this world? Would it work on his daughter's illness? If it really was as the auctioneer said, that it could cleanse a person's bones and marrow, could it be used on his daughter as well? Xiao Xiao's illness was caused by a defect in her blood. Miracle Dr. Lin had said it before, and with the development of science and technology, some genetic experts had said it as well. They'd all tried other methods to make up for Xiao Xiao's blood defect, but there hadn't been any progress. If this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was effective, Tianlong would have gotten one for Xiao Xiao no matter what, but the price was too high for him to even think about it. He belonged to the most secretive department, and his annual salary was frighteningly high in the eyes of normal people, but he'd probably have to live his entire life without eating or drinking to buy a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Dad, what's wrong? Xiao Xiao asked curiously, seeing the conflicted look on her father's face. Xiao Xiao, I'm thinking, does this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing work on you? Tianlong said after some hesitation. But I can't afford it. Xiao Xiao started laughing. This thing sounds like a strength pill. How could it be real? Dad, don't believe it, it's a scam. But the two people in the auction aren't idiots, Tianlong said, shaking his head. Feng Tianlong shook his head. One of them is Lai Changyi, the youngest son of the chairman of the biggest electronics industry in the north. He's rich, but he's not a prodigal. He's good at business. But why does he look like a crybaby? He can't get the pill, so he's just standing there crying? Xiao Xiao clicked her tongue. This fatty wasn't simple, but why was he crying? That's just how he is, but he doesn't cry all the time. He only cries for certain things. Tianlong said. The other person's even more powerful. He's the first heir to Yinjing's house Lu Tianyi. He can't be an idiot. What's wrong with that? Rich people will buy weird stuff if they see it. Xiao Xiao didn't believe that the pill was that powerful. Let's wait and see. Tianlong had already made up his mind to pay a visit to Lu Tianyi. If this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was really effective, he had to get one for his daughter no matter what. The bidding for the second pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had already begun. Because the base price had been raised to 100 million, most of the people who wanted to participate in the bidding decided to wait and see. 150 million! Fatty Lai jumped up again, raising the card in his hand. The crowd wasn't surprised at all. Fatty Lai had already bid 250 million, so it was reasonable for him to bid 150 million now. It seemed like he was determined to get it. A lot of people saw Fatty Lai and Lu Tianyi fighting over the pill, and they were certain that the pill was something good and effective. But they didn't have the guts to throw out a few 100 million yuan for it. What if the effect was not obvious? What if it could only extend one's lifespan for a short period of time? That wouldn't be worth it. With 200 million yuan, they could do a lot more things. There is no need to buy this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. 200 million. Tianyi didn't expect Tianyi to raise his paddle again and bid. Fatty Lai was starting to panic. Lu Tianyi, are you trying to go against me on purpose? What's the meaning of this? Isn't one enough for you? You want to fight with me? Aren't you a little too much? It's a fair competition, and the highest bidder wins. It's only right and proper. Lu Tianyi glanced at Fatty Lai. He knew that he was going a little overboard, but he couldn't back down now. If he could get it for 200 million, then so be it. If it was more than that, Lu Tianyi would give up. After all, money didn't grow on trees. Lu Tianyi was already very satisfied with just one pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. 250 million. Fatty Lai raised his card again, but this time he smiled at Lin Yi, who was sitting on the chair. Lin Yi immediately understood that Fatty Lai had jumped out to mess things up. His goal was to get the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at a higher price. He didn't stop him and let him bid. Raise the sign and buy it. The middle-aged man beside Yu Haitian suddenly spoke and ordered Yu Haitian. Yu Haitian was slightly taken aback. He then nodded and said, Yes, second uncle. 280 million. Haitian raised the bidding card in his hand. Housey was the organizer of the auction, but they had the right to participate in the bidding as well. It was just that there were too few items that caught Housey's eye. Everyone present was surprised at Haitian's sudden participation. Housey had never raised a card in the past few years, because everyone knew that once Housey raised their card, no one would dare compete with them. It wasn't just because they were afraid of Housey's wealth, but also because they didn't want to be enemies with Housey. Whatever Housey wanted, they would get it no matter how much money they had. So as long as Housey raised their card, everyone else would give up. Housey understood this as well, and so they wouldn't raise their card easily. Doing so would ruin the reputation of their auction. They would only make an exception if there was something they absolutely had to get. Just like now, Housey was actually bidding for a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. This meant that Housey was determined to get the pill this time, and the pill was confirmed as well. However, Housey wouldn't do something that would be criticized by others. Haitian's bid was the same price as the previous pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, so it wasn't considered bullying the weak. It was a very fair deal for the seller. After Housey's bid, no one else bid, and so Haitian successfully won the second pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. The third pill of life extension and toxin cleansing appeared, and it was also the last one. Many people were rubbing their palms together, but they really couldn't bear to spend $200 million on a pill. They weren't Housey, nor were they House Lou, nor were they the nouveau riche Fatty Lie. They had other businesses that needed money, and this $280 million was a little too much. Chapter 492. The final auction. It looks like the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is very popular. Now, let's start the auction for the last pill. Guests who are determined to get it, don't hold back. Remember, this is the last one. The last one. The auctioneer excitedly took out the last pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. He also hoped that this final pill of life extension and toxin cleansing could create a miracle and break through the previous two prices. The auction began, and the first to jump out was still Fatty Lie. Fatty Lie was still wiggling his fat, but as he raised his bidding card, $200 million. Wah! The people in the hall didn't expect Fatty Lie to bid $200 million this time, but they understood after some thought. Fatty Lie had failed twice before, and this was his last chance. If he didn't seize this chance, there wouldn't be another one in the future. The one who couldn't understand Fatty Lie's bidding was Haitian. He'd gotten the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, but the more he thought about it, the more shocked he became. This pill was a good item. Uncle, should we bid for another one? No. The middle-aged man shook his head. You've already lowered the price for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Lai Changyi didn't increase the price because of Housey. I'm sure the others are the same. If you continue to fight, you'll lose out. That's not Housey's style. Lowered? Haitian blinked. Keep watching and you'll know. The middle-aged man said faintly. I'm afraid the price this time will exceed $300 million. Haitian was filled with regret at his uncle's words. He was still young and hadn't thought things through. He thought that he'd just bid the highest price in the first round, but it was still too low. Under normal circumstances, if there were several similar items being auctioned in an auction, the price of the first auction item would be higher, and the price of the remaining items would decrease accordingly. This was because the buyers had already competed with each other, and the remaining prices would only be lower. But this time, it was obvious that something unexpected had happened. Lu Qianni wanted to join the fun, but when he heard the price of $200 million, he gave up. He didn't want to bid anymore. Although the Lu family was rich, a lot of it was real estate and securities, which couldn't be sold at all. Moreover, even if he had liquid funds, he couldn't possibly use them all to buy pills, right? $210 million. A young man from an aristocratic family raised his bidding card after getting the tacit approval of his elders. However, he was immediately looked down upon by the others. Other people increased the price by tens of millions, but he only increased it by $10 million. Wasn't that too little? $250 million. Fatty Lie said generously. Dr. Kong frowned. He'd wanted to bid during the second round, but he didn't expect House Yu to beat him to it. He didn't dare compete with House Yu, so he could only wait until the third round. But judging from Fatty Lie's expression, he was determined to get the pill. Dr. Kong was starting to panic. Lin Yi and Guan Shuamin had been sitting the whole time, and it was Fatty Lie who'd stood up and raised his bidding card. No one could see Lin Yi and Guan Shuamin clearly, not even Dr. Kong. 280 million. Under Dr. Kang's signal, Kong Guifeng bid a higher price, the same as the 2 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing. He'd thought that Fatty Lie wouldn't compete, but life was full of surprises. 300 million. Fatty Lie clenched his teeth and raised his bidding card without hesitation. The crowd froze for a moment, but they all understood why Fatty Lie would bid 300 million. He'd given up the first time because he'd still have another chance. The second time, it was House Yu who'd made the bid. Fatty Lie didn't want to compete, nor did he dare, so he'd given up. The third time was his last chance, and he had to grit his teeth and fight for it. With that, 300 million wasn't that high anymore. Dr. Kong was so angry he wanted to curse. This Fatty Lie was too much of a bully, wasn't he? He didn't increase the price when Liu Tianyi bid, and he didn't increase the price when Haitian bid. But when it came to Dr. Kong, he raised it to 300 million. With the previous example, Dr. Kong thought that 280 million was more or less within his grasp. But it seemed that things weren't as simple as he'd thought. "Dad, what do we do?" Kong Guifeng frowned. "This is the last pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and that damn Fatty seems determined to get it." Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben, on the other hand, were confused. "Elder Kong, is this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing really something good?" Dr. Kong didn't answer them, but turned to Kong Guifeng instead. "It doesn't matter if he's determined to get it or not. We have to get this last pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. This is very important to our family." "I understand." Kong Guifeng obviously knew what his father meant. Once the ingredients of this pill were analyzed, then the day of House Kang's meteoric rise was just around the corner. This might be an ancient medicine that has been lost for a long time. Dr. Kong said to Kong Guifeng before explaining to the Xiao family brothers, "After I buy one, I plan to study it." "Oh, I see. No wonder it's so expensive. It's a lost ancient medicine." Xiao Ji said, understanding dawning on him. "Then we have to buy it. With your knowledge, Elder Kong, I'm sure you'll succeed." "Haha, that's not for sure. Isn't the one who discovered this pill some miracle doctor company? They haven't figured it out yet, have they? I can only give a try." Xiao Ji's words were very pleasing to the ears, and it made Dr. Kong very happy. On the other side, Kong Guifeng had already started bidding. 320 million, 350 million. Fatty Lie didn't wait for the auctioneer to speak, calling out an even higher price. Kong Guifeng froze, a layer of cold sweat forming on his forehead. This Fatty Lie sure was rich, daring enough to raise the price. Continue. Dr. Kong didn't want to spend so much money, but he was rich, after all. Dr. Kang's medical group had close to 500 million in liquid assets, and he could still use it. 380 million. Kong Guifeng continued raising his paddle. Fatty Lie hesitated for a moment, but just when the auctioneer called out 380 million going once, Fatty Lie jumped out again. 400 million. Fatty Lie called out his own price. Chapter 493. Changes in the auction, but Fatty Lie and Dr. Kang's family were at odds with each other. What kind of person was Dr. Kong? He was a tycoon in the medical world, and even he was willing to pay such a high price for a pill. How could it be a normal pill? The crowd was starting to regret not joining the bidding when the first pill was brought out, allowing Liu Tianyi to take advantage of the situation. The price was now at 400 million, and it might not even be the final price. As expected, Kong Guifeng raised his paddle again under Dr. Kang's signal. 410 million. He didn't dare raise the bid too much this time. House Kong only had about 500 million in liquid assets, and if he were to raise the bid too much, they'd run out of liquid assets and their business would be affected. But after Kong Guifeng raised the bid, Fatty Lai didn't make a sound. Those who didn't know the situation would think that Fatty Lai was out of money and was hesitating or giving up. Fatty Lai, however, smiled at Lin Yi. "Boss, I think House Kang's at their limit. I'll raise the bid one more time, and they'll definitely be able to keep up, but it'll be hard to say if I raise it again." "Yeah, that's enough." Lin Yi smiled. This Fatty Lai was quite sarcastic, but Lin Yi didn't have a good impression of Dr. Kang's family. He wouldn't stop Fatty Lai from messing with them. 410 million going once. 410 million going twice. The auctioneer paused and looked at Fatty Lai to see if he was going to raise the bid. Dr. Kong was seething with anger. What kind of game was this auctioneer playing? Why was he looking at Fatty Lai if he didn't have the guts to go in for the third time? Wasn't he encouraging Fatty Lai to go against him? However, the auctioneer's encouragement was effective. Fatty Lai gritted his teeth and stood up abruptly, raising his paddle. 420 million. Dr. Kang's heart turned cold. Motherfucker, isn't this auctioneer too mean? But this was House Yu's auction house. Even if Dr. Kong had something to say, he couldn't say it out loud. He could only swallow his anger and signal Kong Guifeng to continue. This time, Dr. Kong had already decided to bet his treasure on the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Judging from the current situation, there were probably only 3 of these pills left. If he missed this one, there wouldn't be any left. Hence, Dr. Kong had no choice but to grit his teeth and bear with it. 430 million. Kong Guifeng raised the bidding board in his hand. 430 million going once. 430 million going twice. 430 million going thrice sold. The auctioneer wanted Fatty Lai to continue bidding, but regrettably, Fatty Lai backed off this time. He was out of money and decided to give up. He sat there quietly, not moving an inch. The happiest person right now was Lu Qianni. He was feeling great. He thought that 280 million for a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was expensive, but now he felt like he'd gotten a great deal. Fatty Lai didn't even get the last pill for 420 million. It was Dr. Kang's family who got it for 430 million. But he was wrong. He thought he was the happiest person, but that wasn't the case. The happiest person was Fatty Lai. He played everyone in the hall. These 3 elixirs had brought the company nearly 1 billion yuan in profit. This was an important stage of the company's development. With 1 billion yuan, they could do a lot of things. Fatty Lai did want to bid for one earlier, but since Lin Yi had already agreed to give him one, he didn't want to mess things up anymore. "Boss, I didn't think we'd have so much money all of a sudden." Fatty Lai chuckled. Lin Yi didn't think that 3 normal bone and marrow cleansing pills could sell for so much money. Old Lin had packed them into jars for him to eat when he was young. You won't be left out. Lin Yi was very impressed with Fatty Lai's business acumen. If Fatty Lai hadn't messed things up today, the 3 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing wouldn't have sold for such a high price. "Thank you, boss." Fatty Lai nodded excitedly. However, just as the auctioneer was about to introduce the next item, someone from the guest seat spoke up. "Good things should be shared with everyone. Little Yu Haitian, ask the seller if they still have the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. We haven't even started bidding, and the item is already gone. This isn't fair." The person who spoke was the head of the Iron Fist Wu family, Wu Gonggao. His name was very well chosen. Wu Gonggao naturally meant that he was highly skilled in martial arts. It was a bit of a boast, but it was well-deserved. He was one of the few remaining mystic-class masters in the common world. Only he dared to speak to someone from House Yu like this. House Wu Iron Fist was an ancient noble house. Although they looked to be about the same age as Lu Qianni's House Lu, for a century-old noble house like this, which one of them didn't have a trump card? Even the head of House Wu, Wu Gonggao's martial arts were enough to shock the audience. Even House Yu was wary of him. It could be said that as long as Wu Gonggao was in charge of House Wu Iron Fist, no one dared to underestimate them. Wu Gonggao rushed over after receiving a call from his grandson, Wu Chintian. He was in Yinjing as well, and had come to House Yu's auction, but a head of a house like him would rarely attend the first and second day of the auction. The first 2 auctions were usually attended by the descendants of the house, and he would only attend the last one himself. But when he heard that there was a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing that had a price of $280 million, and that house he was making a move, he couldn't sit still anymore. He rushed over to the auction site, just in time for the auctioneer's final hammer strike. Chintian, on the other hand, took a look at the introduction of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing and immediately felt that it was similar to the long-lost bone cleansing pill in Wulin. His interest was piqued, and he interrupted the auction unwillingly. If it were just a normal noble house's disciple or a rich merchant asking, Haitian would naturally have an excuse to reject him, but the person asking was the head of House Wu Iron Fist, Wu Gongyao, a mystic class master. He naturally didn't dare ignore him, and looked at his second uncle. Ask Mr. Lai Changyi for his opinion. The middle-aged man hesitated before speaking faintly. If there's more, it's fine to take out a few more. We won't take a cut. Chapter 494. Miracle Doctor Guan Medical Company, Limited. In an auction, if an item was sold very well and wasn't unique, then the auction house would contact the seller at the last minute and ask if there were any other similar items to be auctioned. So it wasn't strange for Haitian to call Lai Changyi right now. Mr. Lai, the response to the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is quite good. Do you have another treasure like that in your hands? You heard it yourself. There are some guests who haven't had the chance to buy it yet, Haitian asked casually. He didn't think much of Fatty Lai before, but his attitude was much better now. I'm sorry, Mr. Yu, but I only have 3 now. I won't be able to bring out a 4th in this auction, no matter what. Fatty Lai said apologetically. Is that so? That's a shame. Haitian sighed. Looks like I'll have to go on stage and explain. Why don't I go and explain? I can also explain why this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is so rare, Fatty Lai said. Sure, I'll have to trouble you then, Mr. Lai. If Lai Changyi were to personally explain the situation, it would save Haitian a lot of trouble. Otherwise, if someone came looking for him for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, even though he was the person in charge of the auction, he wouldn't be able to produce the extra pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Now that Fatty Lai was shouldering all the responsibility, it couldn't be any better. After hanging up, Fatty Lai twisted his fat body and walked up to the auction stage under everyone's surprised gazes. Greetings, guests. I represent Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company to express our sincerest apologies. Fatty Lai held a microphone in his hand and spoke to the people below the stage. All the guests were dumbfounded. Fatty Lai was from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company? Then why did he participate in the auction? Could it be that he was selling and buying, driving up the price? Instantly, many of the guests frowned at Fatty Lai's actions. Fatty Lai's actions were very inappropriate. Although there was nothing wrong with it, everyone knew the rules of the auction, and House would take a cut of the profits. But Fatty Lai's actions would damage his reputation. Miracle Dr. Kong was the angriest of them all. Tianyi wasn't that far off, but the price he'd bid was already very cheap, so he wasn't too conflicted. Dr. Kong, on the other hand, was different. That was $430 million. Most of the family's cash flow had been used up, but Fatty Lai had tricked him. The ingredients for this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing are very rare, and the refining process is very complicated. Professor Guan used almost a year to refine 5 pills, and 3 of them were auctioned off. Fatty Lai shook his head as he continued. Fatty Lai's words calmed the crowd down a little. 5 pills in a year, and the ingredients were rare. This pill was a priceless treasure. If it was said that Dr. Kong had refined it, the people present might have doubted it. But if it was said that Guan Shuiming had refined it, everyone believed it. In the eyes of these aristocratic families, Guan Shuiming was already a divine doctor. But weren't there still 2 left? Where did they go? As for the remaining 2, one of them was given to Miracle Dr. Kong by another partner of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company during his birthday banquet. The other one was taken by my father. Fatty Lai blurted out the whereabouts of the other 2 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing. Naturally, He wouldn't tell anyone that the pill his father took was actually Dr. Kang's. The people who knew Fatty Lai finally understood why his father had recovered so quickly. He was in a coma from uremia, on the verge of death. But now his body was as good as new. These people beat their chests and stomped their feet, regretting that they didn't act earlier. Now, there were only 5 left, and now they were all gone. Of course, the most embarrassed person was Dr. Kong. His face was burning. He just told Xiao Ji that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was a lost product of ancient times. But now it was Guan Shuimin's doing. Not only that, but he'd even given you a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at your birthday banquet. How could you say that it was a unique item? However, Xiao Ji didn't voice his disdain because he was on the same side as House Kong. If Dr. Kong was embarrassed, they wouldn't have it easy either. But Fatty Lai's next words made Dr. Kong feel a little better. So, these 3 are the only 3 left. I may be the CEO of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, but I don't have the right to own a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. So when I found out about the effects of this pill, I couldn't help but participate in the bidding. But I didn't get in the end. It's a pity. I see. The guests heard Fatty Lai's words and understood his actions. Fatty Lai really wanted to buy it, and he wasn't trying to mess things up. If he didn't want it, then he would. As for why Fatty Lai raised the price from the start, it was simple. He knew the true value of the pill, and so people dared to bid. But I'll discuss with Professor Guan when I get back. We'll see if we can bring out some other good items to auction in the 3rd auction. Fatty Lai finished speaking and bowed to everyone. Thank you all for your love for our Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Our products will be sold after the auction. After that, Fatty Lai walked down the stage. The audience was very interested in the items that Fatty Lai mentioned in the 3rd auction. They were all discussing whether this Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company would bring them any surprises. Guan Shuimin's name had always been resounding among these aristocratic families and wealthy merchants. His acupuncture skills were even more superb. But Miracle Dr. Guan didn't care about fame and fortune. Even if there were people who wanted to get close to him, they didn't have much of a relationship with him. But who would have thought that Guan Shuiming would set up a company with someone else and set up the Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company? Was he going against Dr. Kang's medical company? Or did Guan Shuiming suddenly want to earn money? Chapter 495. Chapter 495. Meeting an old friend. Fatty Lai's words were smooth, but he didn't say a single thing about the actual problem. Whether or not the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing would be available in the future, and when, he didn't say. He also didn't say what items would be added for the 3rd auction, and whether or not they would be added was still unknown. But even with this kind of slick and ambiguous attitude, the people present were still very excited and expectant. Vague things always let people's imagination run wild. You sure know how to talk. That's as good as not saying anything. He smiled faintly as he watched Fatty Lai come down. That's true. How can we just say things like that? It's a trade secret. Fatty Lai smiled shyly. But boss, do you think we'll be auctioning anything else for the 3rd auction? What else? He didn't have anything prepared. But it wasn't too late to prepare now. I heard that Dr. Kang's auctioning some special edition golden creation medicine tomorrow. I heard that it heals wounds faster than normal medicine, Fatty Lai said. Why don't we auction some special edition golden creation medicine as well? I've already offended him to death, and once our medicine hits the market, we'll be competitors. We don't have to worry about making enemies with them. Lin Yi's interest was piqued when he heard that Dr. Kong had special edition golden creation medicine in the auction as well. Let me think. Let's see what I can come up with. Let's see if it can surpass his. That's great. As expected of the boss. Fatty Lai nodded repeatedly. That's true. It'd be meaningless if it were the same as them. It'd look like we're trying to copy him. The following auction items were all ordinary items. Of course, this was only relative. Because even if these items were to be brought to an ordinary auction, they would be considered top-notch items. It was just that everyone here had seen the world, so they weren't too surprised by these things. None of the bids were higher than the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. In fact, they weren't even a tenth of the price. Lin, he wasn't interested anymore. So Fatty Lai left his seat and went to the backstage of the auction to handle the handover procedures. The profits from the 3 pills, minus the money spent on the sheepskin map, were all deposited into Fatty Lai's account. After the paperwork was done, Fatty Lai returned with the map and handed it to Lin E. Lin E opened it and glanced at it, then put it away. This was not the place to study these things, and Lin E did not intend to study them, at least not now. Including the piece at home, Lin E only had 2 pieces of the map. He didn't know how big the map was and how many pieces it was divided into, so the 2 pieces he had were practically useless. Lin E had asked Fatty Lai to bid for it out of curiosity. Haha, Elder Wu, how are you? Xu Amin nodded with a smile. He'd given Gong Gao acupuncture before, so he wasn't a stranger, but he didn't act overly friendly or familiar. Xu Amin's attitude towards noble houses had always been neutral, and he didn't get too close to any of them. Even the famous House Yu and the Iron Fist Wu. Thanks to Professor Guan, I'm still healthy. But I'll have to trouble Miracle Dr. Guan to give me acupuncture when you're free. Gong Gao said very politely. Chapter 496. A tense situation. That's not a problem, Elder Wu. Just come visit me in Songshan when you're free. Xu Amin didn't decline the offer, but he definitely wouldn't go to the noble houses to treat them. Xu Amin's temper was something that all the noble houses and merchants knew of. He was willing to see patients, and he didn't care about the fees, but he never went out to see patients. If he was sick, he'd come to Songshan. This was also because Xu Amin was also teaching at the University of Medicine and Medicine. In his eyes, he was a professor, and teaching was his duty. So no matter what happened, he couldn't let his students get in the way of teaching. All right, I'll be sure to visit soon. Gong Gao nodded with a smile. Grandpa, this is the guy I told you about. Not only did he seduce Sun Jingyi, but he even pretended to be some bullshit miracle doctor. He's obviously a liar. I even got slapped by my aunt because of him. Chun Tian abruptly realized that Lin Yi, who was standing beside Xu Amin, felt an uncontrollable sense of humiliation. He lost his mind instantly, pointing at Lin Yi and yelling at him. Chun Tian had been raised too high by the house recently, and was being groomed as the 3rd-generation heir, but it made sense a young man in his 20s reaching golden class early phase. What kind of achievement was that? He was probably the only one in this world. Of course, that was only what House Wu thought. And so, House Wu put all the benefits on Qin Tian's head, creating his arrogant and domineering personality. He wouldn't take a single loss, and he'd always take revenge. And so, when he saw Lin Yi, he didn't even think before insulting him. Xu Amin's face darkened. In his eyes, Lin Yi was both a teacher and friend. No matter how bad he was still a senior brother. And so, naturally, he wasn't happy that someone was insulting Lin Yi like that. He looked at Gong Gao and said faintly, Elder Wu, we'll be leaving if there's nothing else. Wu Gonggao's expression froze. He did not expect that Guan Xiumin would stand up for Lin Yi. He was in a difficult position. Wu Gonggao was famous for being protective of his own people. Furthermore, this grandson of his was extremely talented. Naturally, he treasured him a lot. Whatever he wanted, he would get it to him. No one could say or touch him. Since his grandson was in trouble, he would naturally stand up for him. Who cared whose fault it was and who the other party was? But now, Guan Xiumin was one of the few people he didn't dare to offend. With Guan Xiumin here, he naturally couldn't cause trouble for Lin Yi. He glanced at Lin Yi indifferently and remembered his face, preparing to find a chance to teach him a lesson. However, Wu Gonggao did not say anything, but some people were unwilling and directly blew up the temple. Who are you calling a liar? Look at you, you're the liar. You're worse than a fart. Xiao Xiao didn't like it when this person insulted Lin Yi for no reason at all. Who was she? She was playing the role of Lin Yi's pursuer, and this person insulted Lin Yi. Wasn't that the same as insulting her for her lack of taste, for falling for a liar? And so, naturally, Xiao Xiao was unwilling. She glared at Qin Tian, and if there weren't so many people around, she would have kicked him. Who was Xiao Xiao? Beating people up was nothing out of the ordinary. Qin Tian was furious to hear that someone was insulting him for Lin Yi. He was about to say something, but when he saw that it was a pretty girl, he couldn't say anything. Don't get involved. This has nothing to do with you. The young has no manners, and the old has no manners. Xiao Xiao curled her lips. Hey, old man, your grandson has no manners at all. Aren't you going to teach him a lesson? What did you say, you little girl? Gong Gao's face flashed with anger as he looked at Xiao Xiao coldly, his fist turning into a palm. As the head of the Iron Fist Wu house, he had to teach a junior a lesson for talking to him like that. Where would his face go? Where would House Wu's face go? You old man, what are you doing? Xiao Xiao was startled. She didn't know martial arts, but she could feel the killing intent coming from Gong Gao. Mystic early phase. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Wu Gongao and Qin Tian were both physical practitioners, so he couldn't feel the energy in their bodies. He could only sense their strength level when they used their physical practitioner's arts. He didn't expect this old man to be this strong. Lin Yi moved his body subconsciously, smiling bitterly. No matter what, Xiao Xiao was standing up for him just now. No matter what her intentions were, Lin Yi couldn't just leave her be. Otherwise, it'd be too much. So as soon as Gong Gao made his move, Lin Yi planned to block it for Xiao Xiao. Although the opponent was a mystic early phase, Lin Yi was a golden class late phase peak, and he practiced the art of Dragon Slayer. Naturally, he had the confidence to take a hit from a mystic early phase. He couldn't guarantee victory, but he could protect himself. But Lin Yi's move was unnecessary. The moment he moved, a middle-aged man appeared in front of Xiao Xiao, looking at Gong Gao calmly. Elder Wu, are you going to attack my daughter? Gong Gao paused, his face changing. How could he not know Feng Tianlong? Gong Gao took a deep breath, knowing that he couldn't do anything today. It was impossible to teach Xiao Xiao a lesson. What Gong Gao was afraid of wasn't Tianlong's golden class mid-phase strength. In the eyes of a mystic early phase, a golden class was nothing. Of course, what he was afraid of wasn't Tianlong's background. The Supernatural Investigation Department was a mysterious organization, and their power was shocking. But that was for normal people. For a noble house like Gong Gao, although he wouldn't make them his enemy, he wasn't afraid of them either. What Gong Gao was afraid of was the person who had retired for more than 10 years, Tianlong's former captain. That person used to be a member of the Supernatural Investigation Department's Special Task Force and had brought Tianlong on missions before. He had a close relationship with Tianlong. If it wasn't Tianlong, Gong Gao might not give face to someone else, but he had to give face to Tianlong. In that person's eyes, even an Earth class would be nothing to him, let alone a mystic early phase. Although he didn't know how strong that person was, Gong Gao knew that if he pissed him off, House would be finished. It would only take a day. Fu. Gong Gao let out a long breath and smiled awkwardly. So it's Captain Feng. Why would I attack your daughter? I was just joking. Chapter 497. Was he your boyfriend? Feng Tianlong had just received a phone call when he saw his daughter running over here. If he had come a second later, he would have regretted it. Oh, Xiao Xiao wasn't stupid. She knew that the old man would have done something to her if her father hadn't come. But the old man was clearly afraid of her father, and Xiao Xiao didn't know the reason behind it. She thought that the old man was afraid of her father, and that made her happy. Professor Guan, it's been a while. I've been wanting to pay you a visit in the next couple of days. Tianlong was very happy to see Guan Shuamin there as well. He'd been wanting to pay him a visit in the next couple of days to ask about the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Tianlong and Guan Shuamin knew each other, but Guan Shuamin couldn't do anything after checking on Xiao Xiao's condition. He'd heard that even Lin Dongfang couldn't do anything back then. So how could he? But just because he couldn't do anything a few years ago didn't mean he couldn't now. As long as there was a sliver of hope, Tianlong wouldn't let it go. It's phone, long time no see. Guan Shuamin smiled. I'm always free, just give me a call. Guan Shuamin was noticeably friendlier to Tianlong, and that pissed Gong Gao off. He humphed and pulled Tian away. All right, I'll be going then, Professor Guan. Tianlong had just gotten a phone call, and something came up. He had to hurry back, so he couldn't chat with Guan Shuamin. He'd have to visit another day. All right, Guan Shuamin nodded. Tianlong was about to leave with Xiao Xiao when he saw Lin Yi from the corner of his eyes. His face changed. Huh. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Tianlong had found him after all. In fact, Lin Yi was shocked when he saw Tianlong. He didn't expect Xiao Xiao to be Tianlong's daughter. Lin Yi kept trying to hide, but didn't manage to do so in the end. Lin Yi waved his hand slightly, gesturing for him to keep quiet. Tianlong was a smart man. He knew that Lin Yi didn't want to expose his identity when he waved his hand, so he pretended not to see anything and pulled Xiao Xiao away. However, the lingering fear from before was gone. Instead, he mocked himself for being too nervous just now. Tianlong saw how Lin Yi moved his body slightly in front of Xiao Xiao, but he didn't think much about it. To him, it was just an accident. He didn't think that Lin Yi was going to block Gong Gao's attack for Xiao Xiao. Now that she knew that it was Lin Yi, she understood that Lin Yi's actions were to protect Xiao Xiao. With his protection, Xiao Xiao would definitely be fine. Tianlong knew how strong Lin Yi was. Although he wasn't Wu Gonggao's opponent, he could still deal with him. Xiao Xiao, do you know them? Feng Tianlong asked without any change in his expression. He didn't understand. How did Xiao Xiao know Lin Yi? From the looks of it, it seemed like they knew each other. Yeah, that Lin Yi is my desk mate at school, Xiao Xiao nodded. Xiao Xiao nodded, feeling a little weird. Didn't her dad care a lot about her? Why? Tianlong's eyes went wide as he looked at Xiao Xiao in disbelief. You're saying he's your classmate? Your desk mate? Yeah, what's wrong? Xiao Xiao looked at her dad, confused. She didn't understand why her dad was looking at her like that. No, nothing. Tianlong shook his head. Lin Yi wasn't part of the department, but he did cooperate with them on a few missions. But even so, with Lin Yi's identity, why would he go to school? He was a third-year high school student, and his daughter's desk mate? Wasn't this a little too unbelievable? But he couldn't tell Xiao Xiao too much about Lin Yi. He had his doubts, but he could only bury them in his heart. He wasn't too sure about Lin Yi's identity, and it was the higher-ups who arranged for him to cooperate with the department's missions. Xiao Xiao, go back to the hotel first. Dad has something urgent to deal with and might not come back tonight. I might be busy tomorrow, too. Feng Tianlong was in a difficult position. He just said that he wanted to play with his daughter for a few days, but now he had something else to do. It's fine, you go. I'll invite my classmate to the auction tomorrow. Xiao Xiao wasn't angry this time. She waved her hand casually. Xiao Xiao's attitude surprised Tianlong, but then he remembered how his daughter protected Lin Yi. Could it be that his daughter had feelings for him? Was she starting to like boys? And that boy was Lin Yi? Thinking of this possibility, Feng Tianlong jumped in fright. But Tianlong didn't object to his daughter's puppy love like other parents, because his daughter's situation was special. Quite the opposite. He wanted her to find a boyfriend and give him a grandson or granddaughter. That way, if something really happened to his daughter, he wouldn't have to spend the rest of his life alone. And his daughter's lover was Lin Yi. Tianlong supported it even more. He had seen how outstanding Lin Yi was. Tianlong wouldn't object if Xiao Xiao found someone else, but wouldn't it be better if she found someone he was satisfied with? Tianlong didn't want his daughter to run around, but if she really was with Lin Yi tomorrow, then Lin Yi would be able to protect her. He wasn't worried anymore. You're talking about that Lin Yi? Tianlong came to the parking lot and asked Xiao Xiao after getting in the car. Yeah, Xiao Xiao felt a little embarrassed. Judging from her dad's tone, he seemed to have realized something. But other than embarrassment, Xiao Xiao wasn't afraid. She was just playing around with Lin Yi right now. Even if she really got together with Lin Yi, she wouldn't care. She had always been a troublemaker since she was young. It didn't matter if her father was angry or not. Xiao Xiao, is he your boyfriend? Tianlong started the car and asked suddenly. Xiao Xiao didn't expect her father to be so direct. She paused and stuttered, no, no, no. Feng Tianlong asked back. Didn't you seem to be quite protective of him? Ugh, we're classmates and deskmates. Of course I'm protective. Xiao Xiao was embarrassed. She wasn't afraid of anything, but she was still a little shy when it came to relationships. Chapter 498. We sell hardcover editions. Chapter 498. Selling hardcover editions, huh? Xiao Xiao's eyes went wide as she looked at her father in disbelief. What? What did you say? What I mean is, Xiao Xiao, you're not young anymore. You should find a boyfriend, right? Tianlong coughed, feeling that this wasn't the right time to talk about this with his daughter. But he had to. Because of Xiao Xiao's special condition, Tianlong couldn't help but have this thought. Other parents didn't want their children to fall in love early, let alone have a child out of wedlock. But Tianlong wanted his daughter to give him a child as soon as possible. In truth, Tianlong knew deep down that there was no way to cure his daughter's illness. Even if he ran all over the place, the chances were slim. Even if a miracle doctor were to appear, extending her life by a few years would be the most he could do. A full recovery was a pipe dream. This was why Tianlong was so desperate for his daughter to get a boyfriend. He wanted to see his daughter's life continue, and he didn't care about anything else right now. There's no need for that, right? Xiao Xiao was even more embarrassed. Why would I get a boyfriend? I won't say much about that. Just take care of yourself. Tianlong smiled and drove away. After dropping Xiao Xiao off at the hotel, Tianlong said a few words and quickly drove away. The people there were waiting for him, so Tianlong had to leave first. Xiao Xiao was alone in the hotel, thinking about what her dad had just said. What did he mean? Supporting her to get a boyfriend? Xiao Xiao felt that it was odd. She wasn't even at the age to get married yet. Xiao Xiao suddenly remembered her special condition. Wasn't her mother the same age when she gave birth to her? Xiao Xiao's hereditary condition was rather weird. It was only passed down to females, not males. If it was a boy, it wouldn't be a problem, but it was a girl. She remembered hearing her father talk about her mother when she was young, and it seemed like her grandpa was in a rush to get her mother to be with her father, and the two didn't even register their marriage before they had her. But her father was a devoted man and didn't remarry after all these years. Her father was probably thinking the same thing as her grandpa back then, right? Xiao Xiao shook her head. But times had changed, and she was still a high schooler. Getting a boyfriend and having a child? Wouldn't that be a little weird? Xiao Xiao had never thought about this before, because as far as she was concerned, in her short life, friendship didn't exist and love didn't exist. Xiao Xiao didn't want to get involved with anyone, and she didn't need other people's sympathy. She didn't want the pain of death. Therefore, in the past 18 years, she had no close friends, only a group of scoundrels. She had never fallen for a boy because she didn't want to face that kind of unbearable pain. But Tianlong's words made Xiao Xiao fall into deep thought for the first time. Find a boyfriend? Can I like others too? Xiao Xiao smiled bitterly and shook her head. Who would like her? Finding a girlfriend like me who's about to die. Isn't that just bad luck from 8 lifetimes? Before he could do anything, he was already gone, huh? Xiao Xiao suddenly thought of Lin Yi. If that was the case, Lin Yi would fall in love with her. Even if she didn't dump him, he would still be in pain, right? With that thought, Xiao Xiao made up her mind. Second uncle Lai Changyi and the others left. The young man who was bidding against Fatty Lai for the sheepskin map said quietly into his earpiece, Kuan, follow them and see which hotel they're staying at. Then find out who that young man with Lai Changyi is. The middle-aged man beside Haitian ordered. Yes. The young man called Little Kuan nodded. After exiting the auction house, his figure flashed and disappeared into the boundless night. Fatty Light didn't have a car in Yanjing, and the hotel they were staying at wasn't too far from the auction hall. It was only about 1 kilometer on foot. Fatty Light might be fat, but he had a good body. Guan Shuimin had a healthy body, and taking a stroll once in a while was good for his health. Lin, he was even better. So the three didn't take a taxi, but walked to the hotel. It was a good opportunity for some exercise, and they could get some supper at the hotel's restaurant. Boss, have you thought about what we're going to auction? Fatty Lai reminded Lin, afraid that he'd forgotten about the auction. Fatty Lai was still thinking about the auction again. I haven't thought about it yet. Linny frowned, deep in thought. Dr. Kong was auctioning off the special edition of Golden Creation. If he were to take out a special edition injury medicine as well, he'd be following the trend. Boss, I think we should make a special edition injury medicine as well. They have it, and we have it too. It'd save us the trouble. Fatty Lai suggested, seeing that Lin, he was in a difficult position. Isn't that following the trend? Wouldn't we be at a disadvantage? Linny asked. Boss, I don't have a choice. We're still in the early stages of our company, and I don't plan on releasing too many types of medicine. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is enough. If we release too many types of medicine, we won't be able to showcase the benefits of our medicine and painkillers. Plus, we need to slowly reveal our trump cards. Bringing them out all at once isn't in line with our business goals, Fatty Lai said. Then let's make it a special edition injury medicine. Linny nodded, already having a plan in mind. Our special edition injury medicine is different from Dr. Kang's. I've added a few herbs into the medicine, and it's very effective on old scars. It can quickly remove rot and regenerate flesh. Huh? Fatty Lai's eyes widened, looking at Lin in disbelief. Boss, is there really such a miraculous medicine? It's not that miraculous, it's just adding a few other herbs on top of the injury medicine. It's just that the cost is much higher. Linny shrugged as he spoke calmly. It's fine if the cost is a little higher. It's a premium product, and we won't add the normal version, Fatty Lai said. According to the price of the special edition Dr. Kang's Golden Creation every year, a box is worth more than 500,000. Oh, that's quite high. It's definitely enough to cover the cost. Lin, he was surprised. A box of Golden Creation could sell for 500,000. Lin, he heard Fatty Lai's words and knew that he had misunderstood. He couldn't help but smile. The cost of this thing is only a few kwai. I think it's a little expensive. Quack? How much? Fatty Lai froze and almost fell to the ground. Boss, did I hear it wrong? A few kwai? How is that possible? Then isn't the cost of Dr. Kang's Golden Creation also a few kwai? I don't know about his, I've never seen it before. Lin, he shook his head. But this is our cost. I suggest that we sell it at a lower price so that normal people can afford it. All right, then we'll be a company that benefits the people. Fatty Lai clenched his teeth and said with pain, Then we'll sell it for 199. He was an unscrupulous businessman, but since Lin, he said it, Fatty Lai couldn't insist. From his point of view, 288 would definitely sell well, and there might even be a situation where the supply couldn't meet the demand. 199? In fact, Lin, he still felt that it was a little expensive, but he didn't know how much money a company needed to operate. Seeing Fatty Lai's painful expression, he nodded. Okay. Fatty Lai let out a sigh of relief. He was also afraid that Lin, he would cut down another 100 kwai and make it 99 kwai. Then the profit would be much lower. Then I'll make a plan. The next time we auction our products, we'll announce the retail price. Fatty Lai nodded. Boss, how much do you think we should set the price for the painkiller? The cost of one dose is around 50 kwai. Of course, it'll be lower if we mass produce it. You decide the price, Linny said. Okay, then we'll set a box of 5 at 199 kwai. Fatty Lai probed. 99, Linny said after some thought. Okay, I'll listen to you, boss. In fact, Fatty Lai was afraid that Lin would bargain with him. So he set the price a little higher to give Lin some room to bargain. After confirming the price of the two drugs, Fatty Lai was relieved. Most importantly, he knew the cost of the drugs, which made him even happier. This meant that Lin had already treated him as one of his own, and he was slowly telling him some of the core things. They passed by a larger pharmacy, and Lin E and the other two walked in. Lin E didn't use a prescription, but just dictated some herbs and let the attendant weigh them. Of course, although Lin E had built up some trust in Fatty Lai, it wasn't complete. When he was filling the prescription, he purposely added some useless herbs, and the dosage was also messed up. There were also a few main herbs that Lin E didn't mention. He only mentioned a few uncommon ones, but the attendant shook his head. It's okay, there are a lot of pharmacies in Yanjing. Let's go take a look at other pharmacies. Fatty Lai quickly said to Lin, if it's not okay, I'll get someone to buy a car and send it over. No need for now, let's go take a look at other pharmacies first. Lin E smiled. After filling the prescription, Fatty Lai rushed to pay first. It wasn't much, just a few hundred yuan. Guan Shuamin didn't say anything, and he didn't try to remember what Lin E bought. He was an honest man, and unless Lin E showed in the prescription, he wouldn't take the initiative to ask for someone else's prescription. Not long after the three left the pharmacy, the young man named Kuan looked at Lin E and Fatty Lai's backs. He hesitated for a while, and then flashed into the pharmacy where Lin E bought his medicine. It was a straight path, and there weren't any crossroads on either side. That was why Kuan entered the pharmacy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risked getting lost. Waiter, may I ask what the three people bought just now? Kuan asked the waiter in the pharmacy politely. Chapter 500. Someone's following you, Fatty Lai. Bring Grandpa Guan to the shop next door and wait for me. I'll go take care of something. Lin E suddenly stopped and ordered Fatty Lai. Oh, okay. Fatty Lai didn't know what Lin E was going to do, but Lin E didn't seem to have any intention of explaining. He didn't press the matter, and so he brought him to a store not far away. Lin E, on the other hand, turned around and walked quickly to the pharmacy he'd bought his medicine from. Lin, he didn't expect to be followed on his first day in Yanjing. I'm sorry, sir. The attendant smiled sweetly at Cohen. Our pharmacy has to keep our customers' privacy confidential. One had to admit that Cohen was extremely handsome. He looked like the male lead in Korean dramas, and the attendant couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. Cohen frowned. His looks had always been a lady killer, and he thought the attendant would tell him the truth. He didn't expect her to keep his secret. Still, Cohen didn't give up. He took out his wallet and took out a few hundred kwai bills, placing them on the counter. Pretty lady, give me some face. That guy was my buddy, and I don't know where he got this recipe from to buy my dad's medicine. But I don't know what he bought, and I'm afraid my dad might get sick from eating it. I want to make sure. I see. The average-looking attendant's heart skipped a beat. Cohen's looks were pleasing, but the money on the counter was even more alluring. It was quite a temptation for a working girl like her. Her monthly salary was only 1,000 kwai, and Cohen was giving her 500. It was hard for her to refuse. After some hesitation, the attendant quickly put away the money and took out a list from under the counter. She placed it on the counter. You can copy it, but you can't take it away. Cohen picked up the list and glanced at it. He had an extraordinary memory, and it didn't take long for him to memorize the names of the medicines. He returned the list to the attendant. I'm a medical student, and I can tell if there are any conflicting medicines. There's nothing special, and there's no problem. I'll return it to you. Thank you. Oh, all right. The waitress breathed a sigh of relief. This was the first time she had done something like betraying a customer's privacy. She was not used to it. After hearing Xiao Cohen say that there was no problem, she immediately felt relieved. Moreover, he only took a glance, so there should be no problem. Goodbye, beautiful, thank you. Xiao Cohen turned around and walked out of the pharmacy. However, as soon as he walked out of the pharmacy, his face froze, because he saw Lin E standing in front of him. Why are you following me? Lin E looked at little Cohen and asked calmly. Lin E didn't want to cause any trouble in Beijing, but since someone was following him, Lin E couldn't just ignore it. Facing this kind of unknown danger, Lin E would usually choose to take action first. However, the Jade didn't warn him. so this person shouldn't be too hostile towards him. So, Lenny gave him a chance to explain and didn't kill this golden class mid-phase master right away. The person in front of him was at most in his early 20s, but he was able to have the strength of a mid-phase golden class. It was really not easy. Following you? You must have mistaken me for someone else. Xiao Kun was only slightly shocked, but his expression returned to normal. However, there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. He didn't think that Lin Yi would find out that he was following him. Xiao Kun didn't deliberately hide himself when following these three people, but with the strength of the mid-phase golden class, it was a bit surprising that he was found out. Really? You better not be. Lin Yi shrugged and remembered Xiao Kun's appearance. In the end, he gave up on the idea of killing him. Being in a foreign land, Lin Yi didn't want to attract too much trouble. Since this person in front of him didn't seem to have much hostility towards him, Lin Yi was only warning him. As long as he didn't follow him, it would be fine. Looking at Lin Yi's back, Xiao Kun frowned. He couldn't figure out how this ordinary-looking young man in front of him could find him. However, it was obviously a bit inappropriate to follow him now. Xiao Kun could only call his second uncle. Second uncle, they found me. Oh, the middle-aged man was slightly taken aback. They found you? They have a master bodyguard? I'm not sure. I don't know how they found me, but I was stopped by that young man. He asked me if I was following him. Xiao Kun was also very depressed. It was really like the saying, always walk by the river and you'll get your shoes wet. He actually failed miserably. He thought that it was a very simple tracking mission, but it was seen through by someone else. Forget it. You can come back. Since you know that Lai Changyi is with Guan Xiumin, it's fine. The middle-aged man thought for a moment and said, you pay attention to their company for a while. Tomorrow, I will find a chance to test Lai Changyi and see what his purpose in buying that map is. Okay, second uncle. Xiao Kun nodded and disappeared into the night. He didn't tell his second uncle about the pharmacy. Lin Yi came to the boutique. Guan Xiumin and Fatty Lai weren't actually there to buy anything. They were just casually looking around. When they saw Lin Yi, they went up to him. Is it done? Fatty Lai asked. Yeah, it was nothing. I just met an acquaintance. Lin Yi smiled and didn't tell them about the person following him. He didn't want Fatty Lai and Guan Xiumin to worry. Instinctively, Lin Yi didn't think that Kun was coming for him. Maybe he saw the future of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company at the auction and followed him to see if there were any discoveries. Especially since he just came out from the hospital, it was obvious that he was going to find out what Lin Yi bought just now. So, Lin Yi thought that Kun was trying to pry into business secrets and didn't think about the map fragment. Fortunately, Lin Yi was careful and didn't buy all the herbs at once. It saved him a lot of trouble. In fact, even if Lin Yi bought all the herbs, it wouldn't be of much use without basic injury medicine. Only when it was added to injury medicine would it have the effect of healing old scars. On the way, they passed by another pharmacy. Lin Yi went to buy the rest of the herbs. Fatty Lai didn't seem to have any intention of writing them down, which made Lin Yi feel relieved. Chapter 501. Some left. Isn't this bro Qingtian? What's wrong? Why do you look so sad? The speaker was Xiao Ji's son, Xiao Wangba. He knew that his family was at the end of its tether, so he wanted to get closer to the other noble houses as soon as possible. He walked up to Qingtian when he saw him walking out with an unhappy face. Wangba and Qingtian were friends in the past, friends who drank and played with women together. Qingtian didn't reject Wangba as he looked at him. Don't talk about it. I met a little bastard who tried to steal my woman. Grandpa didn't even help me and dragged me out. I don't know why I can't offend that kid. He's just with Miracle Dr. Guan. Wangba smiled. Don't mention it. I met a little bastard who tried to steal my woman. Grandpa didn't even help me and dragged me out. I don't know what's so bad about that kid. He's just with Miracle Dr. Guan. That's right. Miracle Dr. Guan is nothing. Dr. Kong is the best. Wangba's brother, Xiao Bin's son, Xiao Wangye said. The Xiao family and House Kong were about to become in-laws, so it was only natural that they would side with Dr. Kong. That's right. Qing Tian felt that the Xiao family brothers were his cup of tea. What are you two doing? Come with me if you have nothing to do. I'll treat you to a drink. Qin Tian was pissed, and he wanted to talk to someone about it. The Xiao brothers looked at each other and were overjoyed. They wanted to get close to Qin Tian, and now that he invited them to dinner, they were overjoyed. How could they not be happy? Sure, but let's treat bro Qing Tian. You're the big brother, and we're the little ones. How can we let the big brother spend money? Wang Ba said, since you put it like that, then all the more I can't let you guys treat me. Since I'm the big brother, it's only right that I treat you guys. Qing Tian heard the Xiao family brothers' compliments, and his displeasure lessened a bit. All right, but we'll have to wait. Dr. Kang's Xiaolong bro and his fiancée, my cousin, will be here soon. Let's go together. Wang Ba nodded. Oh, Xiaolong. Qing Tian paused. I know him. We've met before. Let's go together. After waiting for a while, a Nissan VIP slowly drove over. This was the Xiao family's car. Although the Xiao family had fallen, they did not sell the car. This car is expensive to buy, but they would definitely lose a lot if they sold it. So it was better to keep it as a facade. House Xiao and Miracle Dr. Kong wanted Xiaolong and Xin Yan to attend the auction as well, but Xin Yan wouldn't go no matter what they said. Xiaolong had no choice but to stay at home with Xin Yan. For the entire afternoon, Xin Yan sat on the sofa, listening to her MP3 player and reading novels on her phone. No matter what Xiaolong said, Xin Yan would only reply with "oh" or "oh." Xiaolong couldn't get mad at her at all. The auction ended at night, and Wang Ba and Wang Dao invited Xiaolong out for dinner. Xin Yan had no choice but to go with Xiaolong under her parents' urging. Her father had promised her that they'd have a meal together, and there was no rush to make a decision. They could go back to Songshan after the meal, and so Xin Yan reluctantly came to the auction with Xiaolong. Bro Qing Tian, do you have a car? Wang Ba asked Qing Tian when he saw his family's car. Qin Tian came with Gong Gao, but Gong Gao had evidently gone to meet some friends. Qin Tian, on the other hand, was pissed that his grandpa didn't stand up for him, and so he didn't leave with his grandpa. So where was the car? Let's go. We'll take your family's car. Qing Tian didn't think that not having a car was a loss of face. After all, people wouldn't believe him if he said he didn't have a car. Okay, that's great. Bro Qing Tian, please get in. Wang Ba invited Qing Tian into the car before getting in with Wang Dao. Kong bro, this is bro Qing Tian from House Iron Fist. Wang Dao introduced Qing Tian to Xiaolong. Oh, bro Qing Tian, nice to meet you. We've met before. Xiaolong smiled and extended his hand. This is my fiancé, Wang Xinyan. Xinyan, this is bro Qing Tian, the leader of the younger generation of House Iron Fist, our idol. Hi, you're too kind. Qing Tian was very pleased with Xiaolong's words. Xiaolong, you're the nicest. We'll have to drink a few more cups later. No problem. Xiaolong agreed happily. He was good at his studies, but he wasn't a bookworm. On the contrary, he was very cunning. He knew how to please Qing Tian. Wang Xinyan, on the other hand, sat there quietly, not saying a word. She listened to her MP3 player as if the people around her had nothing to do with her. Xiaolong didn't know what to do when Xinyan didn't say anything. But Qing Tian didn't mind at all. He sat there and started chatting with Wang Ba. Lin, he sent the 20 bottles of special edition injury medicine to Fatty Lai's room. Fatty Lai didn't think that it would be done so quickly. He was surprised, but he admired himself for his wise decision to follow Lin Yi. Boss, how do we set the price for this special edition golden creation? Do as you see fit. Lin Yi wouldn't interfere with the price of this kind of auction item. Everyone who participated in the auction was a wealthy businessman. It wasn't a big deal for them to spend some money. All right, with Lin Yi's full authority, Fatty Lai could do it on his own. He hesitated and said, boss, can I participate in the auction for this special edition injury medicine? You need this? Lin Yi looked at Fatty Lai strangely. Men didn't seem to need this kind of thing, did they? Just like Lin Yi, there were a few battle scars on his body, but Lin Yi didn't think about removing them. There was no need. Heh, it's my wife. She had an appendectomy a few years ago, and it left a scar. Fatty Lai said, a little embarrassed. You know, every time we make out, I feel uncomfortable when I see that scar. My wife likes to look pretty, and she can't wear clothes that expose her navel in the summer. All right, I got it. Lin, he waved his hand when he saw that fatty lie wasn't done. I still have some left in my room. I was going to throw them away, but if you need them, you can take them back. Huh? Throw them away? Fatty lie almost fainted. Boss, that's money we're talking about. It's a ways to throw them away. It's like throwing away money. I made a little more, but I don't have any bottles left. It's a little troublesome on my bed. I still need to sleep at night. Lin, he shrugged nonchalantly. Lenny didn't really care about this kind of low-cost stuff. Chapter 502. My dad wants to see you. Lin, he shoved the rest of the injury medicine into Fatty Lie's hands, only to see that the guy was about to cry again. He pushed the meatball out of the room and slammed the door shut. After stretching, Lin, he called Tang Yun, but the phone was still turned off. Lin, he shook his head helplessly, not sure if Tang Yun saw his text. He went to wash his face when his phone rang. Lin, he thought it was Tang Yun, but it was Xiao Xiao. Lin, he frowned. He didn't want to pick it up, but Xiao Xiao's perseverance was amazing. She called again and again, and Lin, he picked it up impatiently. What's up? Why are you being so mean to me? Xiao Xiao felt wronged when she heard Lin Yi's impatient voice. What was the meaning of this? He was so nice to other people, but this was how he treated her. Are you okay? Lin, he ignored her. If not, I'm hanging up. Yes. Don't hang up, I have something. I really have something. Xiao Xiao jumped in fright. She quickly calmed Lin Yi down, trying to think of a reason to call Lin Yi. Just say it. Lin Yi resisted the urge to hang up. Where are you? Xiao Xiao asked. Hotel. Lin Yi said. Is there anything else? Yes, and Xiao Xiao was sweating. Which hotel are you staying at? What does this have to do with you? Lin Yi asked. Do you have something to do or not? Yes. My dad wants to see you. You saw him at the auction, right? Xiao Xiao couldn't think of a reason, so she came up with a random one. Your dad? Looking for me? Lin, he was stunned, but he didn't doubt Xiao Xiao's words. After all, he knew Tian Long, and they'd even gone on a mission together, so it was possible that Tian Long was looking for him. But if Tian Long was looking for him, why would he need Xiao Xiao to call him? Didn't he know how to fight? Also, he had already signaled Feng Tian Long with his eyes. As a professional agent, couldn't he see that he didn't want to expose his identity? Why would he come looking for him? It was one thing to look for him in private, but he even sent Xiao Xiao to look for him. Tian Long wouldn't do something like this without considering the consequences. Would he? Yeah, Xiao Xiao had just come up with a random excuse, and it was hard to keep up the lie now. Yes, why is Dad looking for Lenny? Xiao Xiao's brain worked furiously, and finally she got it. I told my dad that you're my boyfriend, so he wants to see you, Xiao Xiao said shyly. What? Lin, he almost threw the phone away. You can eat whatever you want, but how can you say whatever you want? Tell Tian Long that he's Xiao Xiao's boyfriend? Lin, he understood. No wonder Tian Long wanted to see him. Any father would want to see their daughter's boyfriend, especially him. He knew Tian Long from before, and Tian Long was probably wondering how he got together with his daughter. Linny, which hotel are you at? I'll go look for you, Xiao Xiao said softly to Lin. Ugh, never mind, where are you? I'll go look for you. Lin, he was speechless. He really had to explain this to Tian Long, or he'd be screwed. Hee, I'm at Songjiang International Hotel. I'll wait for you at the entrance. Xiao Xiao didn't expect Lin Yi to agree immediately. It seemed that using her dad as an excuse wasn't bad. She didn't know that Lin Yi had misunderstood her. There was more to this than met the eye. Okay. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and hung up. He really had to talk to Feng Tian Long about this. After saying goodbye to Fatty Lai and Guan Xiumin, the three of them planned to go to the restaurant for supper, but Lin Yi obviously couldn't eat. At the entrance of the hotel, they stopped a taxi, and Lin Yi told the driver the name of Xiao Xiao's hotel. Songjiang International Hotel wasn't far from the hotel Lin Yi was staying at, but it was on the other side of the auction. The car stopped at the entrance of the hotel, and Lin Yi paid the fare. He saw Xiao Xiao standing at the entrance waving at him. Lin frowned. Xiao Xiao was still so enthusiastic at this time. Was she waiting for Tianlong to misunderstand? Lin here. Xiao Xiao saw Lin and called out excitedly, waving her hand back and forth. Where's your dad? Lin walked in front of Xiao Xiao, ignoring her enthusiasm. Oh, my dad. Xiao Xiao had already thought of a plan. My dad received a call at the last minute, and he's going to a meeting. He asked me to take care of you first. He'll be back soon. If it was someone else, they wouldn't believe Xiao Xiao's words. How could there be such a coincidence? She called Lin over, and the next thing she knew, she had something to do and had to leave. But Lin really believed her. As far as he was concerned, Tianlong was freer than him, but not much freer. He didn't know when the mission would come. It could be in the morning, it could be in the middle of the night. So, Lin nodded without hesitation. Where to wait? I haven't eaten yet. My dad asked me to treat you to something first. Xiao Xiao was a little surprised. She didn't expect Lin to be so gullible. Logically speaking, Lin wasn't that gullible. In school, Lin wouldn't believe anything she said. What was wrong with him today? Although Xiao Xiao was confused, she wasn't stupid enough to ask. She could only bury it in her heart and wait and see. Oh, then let's eat something. Lin, he had his dinner early. He was going to have supper with Fatty Lai and Xu Min, but Xiao Xiao called him over. Okay, then let's walk around and see if there's anything good around here. Xiao Xiao didn't expect Lin to agree so easily. She was even more confused. Can't we eat here? Lin pointed at the Songjiang International Hotel behind Xiao Xiao. How could they not eat at an international hotel? Xiao Xiao hesitated. It's really expensive here. I don't have enough money. Xiao Xiao was staying in an economy room, and it was paid for by Tianlong. The food here wasn't cheap. Xiao Xiao only brought a few thousand this time, and she didn't want to spend it all at once. Chapter 503. Chapter 503. Wu Qintian's plans. Lin Yi's impression of Xiao Xiao didn't change, but he felt that Xiao Xiao had been acting strangely lately, confessing to him out of nowhere. He didn't know what she was planning. Now that she told Tianlong about it, Lin couldn't help but wonder what she was thinking. Sure, Xiao Xiao didn't expect Lin to treat her, so she nodded happily. As the two were talking, a Nissan MPV stopped in the parking lot of Songjiang International Hotel. Tian, Zhaolong, the Xiao family brothers, and Xinyan got out of the car. Wangba praised, Bro Tian, you're amazing. I've only been here once or twice, and those were during family gatherings. Isn't this a piece of cake? Tian waved his hand, cocky. In fact, although the Wu family was an ancient family, they advocated martial arts. They were good at practicing martial arts. However, when it came to doing business, they were mediocre. Although they had a few businesses, they were not very big. They only had tens of millions of income a year. This was also the reason why the Wu family only watched from the sidelines at the auction and rarely made a move. In fact, Songjiang International Hotel wasn't all expensive. Just like the guest rooms, they were divided into several grades. There were economy rooms, business rooms, luxury rooms, presidential suites, etc. The ordinary economy rooms were only a few hundred yuan a day, but the presidential suites were tens of thousands a day. It was the same for the F&B. The first and second floors were for normal hotels, so the prices weren't that expensive. A table only cost around 1,000 to 800, and if you didn't want a private room and chose to eat in the main hall, you could get it for a few dozen. The third and fourth floor, however, cost less than 8 or 10,000. The top floor was even more ridiculous. A table of food cost millions, and everything was cooked with top-quality ingredients and international chefs. Of course, there was a dedicated elevator for each level, so there was no need to worry about unpleasant situations because of the different levels of customers. This was a testament to the hotel's wealth. That's right, Bro Tian, you're definitely on a higher level than us. Xiao Wangdao gave him a thumbs up as well. Xinyan frowned. She didn't like this kind of flattery. She didn't understand why her father would fall for someone like this. Even if he interacted with such a person for 10 years, he would not fall in love with him. Wang Ba wanted to congratulate Cheng Tian, but when he raised his head, he noticed that Cheng Tian's expression wasn't right. Bro, Cheng Tian, what's wrong? Fuck, I saw that bastard. Cheng Tian clenched his fist as he looked at Lin Yi, who wasn't too far away. He had the urge to run over and beat up Lin Yi. Oh, why is it him? Xiaolong paused when he saw Lin Yi. He didn't attend the auction, so he didn't know that Lin Yi was in Yinjing. Bro, Cheng Tian, do you want us to teach him a lesson? Who is that little girl? She doesn't look bad? Wang Ba saw that Lin Yi was alone with a girl beside him, and he immediately became arrogant. Although the Xiao family was down and out, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. In Yinjing, Wang Ba didn't care about anyone. Xin Yan gasped. She looked at Lin Yi in disbelief, wondering why Lin Yi was here. She even called him earlier, no need. Cheng Tian waved his hand. Wang Ba's words reminded him. The girl beside Lin Yi was obviously not Sun Jingyi, and if Lin Yi was Sun Jingyi's boyfriend, then why was he with another girl? It was Lin Yi's turn to be unlucky. Cheng Tian thought that if he told Sun Jingyi about this, would Sun Jingyi still be with Lin Yi? Of course, this kind of thing was nothing in the eyes of these young masters. As long as their girlfriends didn't find any evidence, it would be fine. If it was put on the table, it would be a big deal. No need. Wang Ba didn't understand what Cheng Tian meant. This was such a good chance to teach Lin Yi a lesson. Why not use it? I'm going to treat them to dinner later. Just cooperate with me. Don't talk nonsense. Just listen to what I have to say. Cheng Tian wasn't stupid. If he directly told Sun Jingyi that Lin Yi had a girl outside, Sun Jingyi wouldn't believe him and would think that he was lying. Evidence was needed for everything. Although he could take a photo for Sun Jingyi, a photo of them talking in front of a hotel didn't prove anything. They could talk for half a day if they met someone they knew, and Cheng Tian wasn't stupid enough to use this as evidence. What he wanted to do was to treat Lin Yi to dinner. At that time, he might be able to see the intimate actions between Lin Yi and Xiao Xiao. Of course, if Lin Yi was more cautious, he could force him to drink more. It was inevitable that he would give himself away after drinking, and if he took a photo, Sun Jingyi wouldn't believe it. Thinking of this, Cheng Tian felt that he was too much of a genius. He could kill without a trace, and unknowingly set up a trap for his opponent to fall into. Bro, Cheng Tian wants to treat him to dinner? Wang Ba couldn't believe his ears. Yes. Later, help me out. If he does anything intimate with that girl, use your phone to take a photo. Cheng Tian ordered. Okay. Wang Ba and the others nodded. Only Xin Yan frowned. She didn't understand what Cheng Tian was planning. Lin Yi. After giving the order, Cheng Tian quickly walked towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't expect to see someone he knew here. He turned around and saw Cheng Tian. He wondered if this guy was unhappy and came here to cause trouble. What do you want? Lin Yi looked at him, but his eyes fell on Xin Yan, who was not far behind Cheng Tian. This made Lin Yi even more surprised. Why was Xin Yan with Cheng Tian and the others? Besides, other than Xin Yan, Lin Yi saw another familiar face, Kong Xiaolong. Bro Lin Yi, I'm really sorry for offending you just now. Cheng Tian gritted his teeth and pretended to be apologetic to Lin Yi. My grandpa already scolded me. I hope you don't mind. Oh, I don't have time to mind small fries. I don't even remember your name. Lin Yi looked at him and waved his hand. You're Iron Fist, Wu, right? Chapter 504. Chapter 504. Overbearing. Alright, is everything alright? Lin Yi looked at Cheng Tian before turning to leave. Wait, there was no way Cheng Tian would let Lin Yi leave just like that. How was he supposed to carry out his plan? He quickly called out to Lin Yi. I think you guys are going for supper, right? I'll treat you guys to dinner to express my apology. It's fine, we'll go ourselves. Lin Yi rejected Cheng Tian's suggestion flatly. Don't worry, I won't feel good if you don't go. I know I'm in the wrong, and it's best if I can change. Cheng Tian said, Give me some face. Lin Yi looked at Xin Yan, who wasn't too far away. She was looking at him expectantly. Could it be that Xin Yan wanted him to eat with them? What was her relationship with Chun Tian? Lin Yi hesitated at the thought. If it was just Chun Tian treating him to dinner, Lin Yi wouldn't be interested at all, but with Xin Yan, things were different. But before Lin Yi could say anything, Xiao Xiao spoke up. You're treating us? Yeah, Lil Sis Xiao Xiao, I'm really sorry for what I did to you earlier. Chun Tian knew about Xiao Xiao's background now, and naturally didn't want to get on her bad side. He wasn't as angry as before. I see. I'll give you a chance to apologize then. What do you say, Lin Yi? Xiao Xiao winked at Lin Yi. Lin Yi blinked, not knowing what Xiao Xiao was planning. But when this girl made that expression, it meant that someone was going to be in trouble. Xiao Xiao had the same expression when she targeted him before, but this time, the person in trouble was Chun Tian. He nodded. All right, I'll listen to you. Chun Tian was overjoyed to see Lin Yi agree. Then let's go. It's my treat today. Order whatever you want to eat, and let's resolve this misunderstanding. Oh, we're going to the top floor of Songjiang International Hotel for supper. Let's go there then. Xiao Xiao nodded naturally. Quack. Chun Tian paused. He had only been to the third and fourth floor of Songjiang International Hotel, and that was already very luxurious. One table cost him tens of thousands of kuai. If this was the top floor, how much would it cost? Although he had never been there, he could imagine it. And so, Chun Tian hesitated. He was planning to bring the Xiao family brothers and Zhaolong to the first floor, and with Lin Yi, they could only go to the room on the second floor. The food and wine on the table would be around 10,000 yuan, but he didn't expect Xiao Xiao to ask for the top floor. What happened to you? Xiao Xiao looked at Chun Tian's face strangely. What's wrong with your face? Don't you practice Iron Fist? Did you practice Iron Skin Face too? Of course not, huh? Chun Tian forced a smile. Then let's go to the top floor. That's great. I've never been to the top floor before. I'll have to eat to my heart's content later. Xiao Xiao cheered. The Xiao family was like the sun in the sky, and the old man was still alive. Even if people thought that Wangba and Xiao family were homophonic, they wouldn't say it out loud. Now that the Xiao family was gone, naturally, no one had the time to say it out loud. Only Xin Yan heard the sarcasm in Xiao Xiao's tone and couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. Zhaolong fell head over heels for her. Xin Yan, another girl just came. I was worried that you'd feel awkward, but now there's someone to accompany you. Chapter 505. This meal wasn't for nothing. Welcome. The group went through the VIP passage and arrived at the elevator on the top floor. Every floor had its own passage to show how prestigious they were. The moment they entered, two waiters, one male and one female, bowed to them respectfully. The man and woman looked like a perfect couple, no weaker than those movie stars. Chun Tian's heart skipped a beat. If the door was this luxurious, wouldn't the inside be even more luxurious? He didn't know if he brought enough money, but it should be enough. Chun Tian had more than 100,000 in his bank card. He was the leader of the younger generation in House Wu, but House Wu wasn't that wealthy. Naturally, they had to control his pocket money. Bro Chun Tian, look at the luxurious hallway. Are we really going in? Wangba's heart was beating like a drum. Chun Tian wouldn't make him pay if he didn't have the money to pay. What's with all the nonsense? We're here. Chun Tian frowned. He was nervous, but he didn't back down. I said it's my treat. Why are you so nosy? Are you looking down on me? Chun Tian? That's not it. Xiao Wangba felt a little awkward. Bro Chun Tian, Bro Wangba isn't looking down on you. He's doing it for your own good. He's worried that you won't have enough money. Xiao Xiao interrupted. He's just being nice. Chun Tian was irritated. How could this Xiao Xiao say that? What did she mean by worried that he wouldn't have enough money? He turned around and saw Xiao Xiao looking at him innocently. There wasn't a hint of disdain or mockery on her face. He was confused. Could it be that Xiao Xiao wasn't mocking him, but explaining Wangba's intentions? I know he's being nice, but I'm the first in line to inherit House Wu. How could I not have enough money? What a joke. Shintian explained gloomily. He didn't have any temper at all. Lenny looked at Xiao Xiao oddly, amused. He didn't expect her to be so good at playing dumb. Yeah, how could bro Shintian be poor? I'm the one who hasn't seen the world. I'm using my own worldview to judge bro Shintian. Wangba knew that his good intentions had ruined things. He quickly explained, I'm really a frog in a well. That's not true. Shintian was pleased with Wangba's words. He waved his hand and said generously, It's normal that you've never been to the top floor. I've actually only been here once with Grandpa. It's expensive, but it's for a good reason. It's expensive for a good reason. Chuntian, bro Chuntian. Man, I do have a boyfriend, or else I'd fall in love with you. Xiao Xiao said worshipfully after hearing Chintian's words. Lin, he almost burst out laughing, but luckily he had a lot of self-control. It was just a weird expression on his face for a moment before returning to normal. ICH, Xiao Xiao's Chan Chase HT for him. CH Tai and Xiao Xiao, CHT full. He couldn't touch this Xiao Xiao, but he was happy to be praised by her. The last time I came here with my grandpa, even he said that the service was so high class and the dishes were so cheap. Chapter 506. Xiao Xiao ordering what a? Chen Tian waved his hand. You're mocking me, aren't you? What's this small amount of money? Grandpa and I ordered a few signature dishes here, and it didn't even cost much. I see. Xiao Xiao said worshipfully. I'll order then. Yeah, go ahead. Chen Tian thought to himself. It seemed that all girls liked pretentious guys. His strategy for pursuing Sun Jingyi was a bit problematic. He'd always been careful about his demeanor, pretending to be a gentleman in front of Sun Jingyi. But after seeing Xiao Xiao's reaction today, Chen Tian felt that it was better to be pretentious. Even Xiao Xiao, who already had a boyfriend, was looking at him in a different light now. Chen Tian felt as if he'd been enlightened, feeling that today's meal wasn't a waste at all. Not only did he achieve his goal, but he'd also learned how to hit on girls. Oh, give me one of each of these signature dishes. Xiao Xiao pointed the signature dishes on the first page of the menu. Okay, but are you sure you want one of each? The waiter carefully repeated to confirm. The signature dishes on the first page weren't cheap at all. They all cost at least 500,000, and the ingredients were flown in the same day. Bro Chintian, which signature dish is the best here? Haven't you tried them all? Why don't we just pick a few? Xiao Xiao raised her head to look at Chintian. I think it's a bit wasteful if we order too much. The signature dishes here are all good. I've tried them all before, and I can't tell which one is better. Chintian had never eaten signature dishes before. He couldn't say it now, and in order to not lose face, he could only pretend that he'd eaten them all before and let Xiao Xiao order them all. He couldn't say that he didn't know which one was better, could he? The waiter saw that Shantian had already confirmed it, and naturally, he didn't ask anymore. It was obvious that Shantian was the one treating today, and Shantian was an arrogant person with the aura of a rich young master. The waiter wasn't worried that he wouldn't be able to pay the bill. All right, please continue. The waiter noted down the signature dish and politely gestured to Xiao Xiao. Actually, I'm not very good at ordering. Why don't you recommend some delicious dishes to me? I like seafood, Xiao Xiao said. Chen Tian let out a breath of relief after hearing Xiao Xiao's words. Seafood was expensive, but it wasn't that expensive. For ordinary people, these were top-notch delicacies. But for the children of aristocratic families, these things were nothing special. What was the most expensive thing? Naturally, it was those rare and precious things in this world. He was really afraid that Xiao Xiao would eat some rare animal or something. That would be really expensive. If you're talking about seafood, we have Hokkaido abalone, Australian lobster, and Devon crab. These are all our signature dishes. May I ask which grade would you like, madam? Hokkaido abalone is divided into... The waiter was about to introduce when Xiao Xiao interrupted him. Bro Chintian, why don't we get something cheaper? Something like the street food stalls. Xiao Xiao said, a little embarrassed. We've already ordered so many signature dishes. Why don't we order some cheaper seafood? What do you want cheap? I want the best. Tian waved his hand. How expensive could seafood be? It wasn't like he hadn't eaten seafood in five-star hotels before, and a meal would only cost 10 to 20,000 at most. All right, the best Hokkaido abalone is. The waiter nodded and was about to introduce. I said I want the best. What do you mean? Do you think I've never eaten it before? Tian was a little annoyed. This waiter was still introducing things here and there. Was he looking down on him? He felt like he had lost face and scolded the waiter impatiently. I'm sorry, sir. The waiter quickly apologized. He wanted to repeat the grade of the seafood in the restaurant. For example, the Hokkaido one-head abalone was the highest grade abalone. He wanted to brag about the strength of his restaurant, but the owner of this table clearly didn't like it. Then give me one of each seafood. I'll try it myself. I've never eaten anything so delicious. I didn't waste my life. Even if I die, it's worth it. Xiao Xiao looked at Tian gratefully. What do you mean one? One for everyone. Let's eat the good stuff. Tian said to the waiter. Other than signature dishes and seafood, give us a few side dishes. Don't make them too low-end. They have to match these. Tian said that, but in his heart, he was thinking, how expensive could normal side dishes be? Even if it was a little more high-end, a few vegetarian dishes would cost a few hundred to 1,000. Okay. The waiter didn't dare to say more and nodded to show that he remembered. She could tell that this table of customers was very generous. They were probably very rich and didn't like her talk. Is there anything else? Do you want to order now? Bro Tian, do we want wine? Wang Ba reminded Tian. Give us some red wine, Tian said to the waiter. 82 Lafite. Okay. The waiter was a little confused. The 82 Lafite was considered good wine, but it was nothing compared to the dishes they ordered earlier. The dishes they ordered earlier didn't seem to match the 82 Lafite, but the waiter could see that Tian's temper wasn't very good, so he didn't dare to ask. Who knew? Maybe he liked 82 Lafite. After the waiter left, Tian said, It's fate that brought us together today. Let me introduce everyone. This is Lin Yi. I have a little conflict with Lin Yi bro, but the fact that Lin Yi bro came to this dinner shows his attitude. And this is his girlfriend, Xiao Xiao. Kong Xiaolong. Xiaolong stood up and extended his hand to Lin Yi. Lil bro Lin Yi, we've met before. Lin Yi smiled faintly but didn't extend his hand. Do you think we need to shake hands? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.